Hi, I'm Carlin Borisenko. In early 2020, I was the knitting Democrat who accidentally went viral on the internet for going to a Trump rally and then left the party. I became the conservative darling, was on all the shows, traveled around the country, and then realized that conservatives were no better than Democrats. If there's one thing that I've learned, it's that both political tribes are two sides of the same coin. But it wasn't all bad. On my journey, I became obsessed with understanding the woke ideology and the culture war. I broke the story of the city of Seattle doing segregated training with its employees.
How bad has this stuff become? The city of Seattle has now put out, I'm not kidding you, this is according to Dr. Carolyn Borisenko, who's an organizational psychologist. The city of Seattle asked its white employees to voluntarily spend a day off in a training about their internalized racial superiority.
I broke the story that led to the first ever federal lawsuit against critical race theory in the schools. I broke the Coke Be Less White story, one of the biggest anti-woke stories of all time. It got over 30 million views. Coca-Cola's corporate headquarters even had to change their outgoing voicemail.
Throughout the past few days, you may have seen inaccurate reporting on the content of our recently launched diversity, equity, and inclusion training program.
I exposed the schools in Burlington, Vermont for grooming middle school children live on the internet. They called me an unwoke cult leader for that. And the Vermont Human Rights Commission slandered me publicly as being a hate channel. I even got called a hero in Breitbart for exposing that the Washington Post was writing a hit piece on Christopher Rufo. I have broken story after story after story about what's going on in the public schools, from Cambridge, Massachusetts, to autistic sex education, to the Department of Education in Michigan, literally training teachers all over the state how to groom children. I wrote a book called Actively Unwoke, the ultimate guide for fighting back against the woke insanity in your life. I host a podcast all about fighting back, and I'm downloading all of my knowledge to you on my Substack, carlin.substack.com. The world is a crazy place. We are literally surrounded by cults on all sides. On this show, we're going to do a deep dive into all aspects of the culture war, and I will show you the dark, dystopian underbellies on both sides. Here are the commitments I'll make to you. I will always tell you the truth. I will always bring you receipts. And if you stick with me, I promise you will see the world differently. Welcome to the cult. Please mount that like button for me and subscribe if you feel so inclined. Well, hey guys, how you doing? I hope everyone is well. I apologize for being a few minutes late. To be honest with you, I wasn't actually sure I was going to do the stream at 5 o'clock up until about 20 minutes ago. When I did decide to go through with it, it's going to be, I'm going to warn everyone, a little bit of a half-assed stream today because I really was not planning on doing this up until about 20 minutes ago, but we're going to work it out. We're going to get it done. Naruto says, it begins studios exploring option to have AI write scripts on books. Will hire writers to clean up the scripts after the strike. Well, I think that this is inevitable, to be honest. And I think that people can complain all they want about AI this and AI that, and AI is going to replace real human artistry. But the fact of the matter is that if you have to use the tools that are given to you, and that will always win out over, whining and crying and stuff like that. Now, speaking of whining and crying, the last couple days have been a little tumultuous on this channel, haven't they? Just a little bit. And for those of you who, were around for I did a stream at around 2 a.m. last night. It went till 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. because I'm a completely normal person with a completely normal sleeping schedule. And I was trying to explain why. I'm giving my audience an ultimatum to be able to say, I am no longer going to cover the school's content on this channel if people aren't going to watch it. It's kind of like I have made you several different fucking dinners. I do it every night. I've been doing it every night for 2 years. You don't want that, okay, so I made you this. You don't want this, okay, I made you that. You don't want that, okay, I made you this other thing. You don't want that. You just want a fucking cheeseburger from McDonald's. Well, what the hell is on my shirt? That is not on the menu for today. I'm done. Ain't no more dinners being made. And the reason is, and Naruto says, and studios don't have to pay AI. Well, no, I mean, in order to actually produce scripts, they are gonna have to pay. But not as much, right? Anyway, back to the topic at hand. Um, I told people that if you are unwilling to watch the content I'm creating, I'm not even asking you to pay for it. Keep in mind, I didn't even ask anyone to donate, although of course that's always appreciated. I said, if you are unwilling to watch the content that I am making, the content that so many of you, hundreds of you over the last day have left comments and sent me messages saying, Carlin, this content is so critically important. It's so critically important. It's so critically important. And Lizard, this is not an excuse that YouTube isn't notifying you. And I'm going to tell you why that's not an excuse in a second. It's so critically important, Carlin. You can't stop. You can't stop. You have to do it. Well, when push comes to shove, people don't watch it. So why do I have to keep doing it? And I'm not going to go into a big boo-hoo because we got other stuff to do today. And I did the big boo-hoo last night on the 2 a.m. live stream. But I have to say, I basically set it up for everyone. I said, okay, if you want me to keep creating this content, here is the autistic sex ed stream. Again, here are several different clips from the autistic sex ed stream that are all under 3 minutes long. Again, go watch it. That's all I ask people to do. If you truly believe that this content is critically important, if you truly believe that I should spend all of my time and all of my energy creating more of this content, then what I need you to do now is to watch it, to hit the like button, to leave a comment on it to feed the algorithm, and to share it. I did everything I could. I said, here's the long form 2-hour content. Here's a bunch of clips that are all under 3 minutes long. Here's a playlist. The playlist is now pinned to the top of my YouTube channel. Here is notification in the community tab, like over and over and over again. I sent out like 5 different messages in the community tab. I sent out an email to my entire locals community. I sent out multiple Twitter notifications. For all that, I got 2,000 views on the 2-hour live stream. And then people said, okay, Carlin, it's not just the live stream though, because that's 2 hours long. So if you make shorter clips, people will watch it, right? No. Each one of those clips that I made yesterday has less than 1,000 views on it. The live stream that I did last night between the hours of 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. has more views on it than all of the less than 3-minute clips that I made that people begged me to make, that they said they wanted. They assured me that if I just made these smaller clips, they would absolutely watch it. Do you guys see what I'm getting at here? And so then I get people in my feed, I get people saying, how dare you tell your audience what to do? You're blaming your audience for your shortcomings. Well, no one is saying that you have to do anything. But I am no longer going to make content that people don't want to watch. And if you don't want to watch it, stop gaslighting me and blaming me for your lack of action. Nope, this is not right either, Mighty Pancake. YouTube is not shadow banning my channel. Let's just get this out of the way because I again had to debunk this last night. I've had to debunk this about 8,000 times in the last 2 days. You have been served up direct links to this content. You have been given it. I have created a whole fucking playlist for you of this content. It is the very first playlist that you're going to find on the channel homepage. This is not YouTube shadow banning anything. This is you guys making the choice to not watch it. And you have no excuse right now because I'm literally telling you, you're on a stream watching me, literally telling you, here is exactly where you need to go to find this content. YouTube has nothing to do with that at all. The reason that you are not being served my content is because when you are served my content, you don't click on it. Now, you are not obligated to click on anything, bro. You are not obligated to click on anything. I am not telling anyone what to do. What I am saying is that I am no longer going to create content that people refuse to click on and watch. And in this case, it just happens to be the most important content that I create. It is some of the most important content I think that exists on this goddamn platform. But I can't get people to watch it. I can't get you to click on it. If it's served up to you, you don't click on it. I promise you guys, if you come to my channel and click on the content every day, because I post new content every single day, except for Sundays, and even then I'm sometimes posting clips. If you come to the channel every single day and you click on the content that you claim to want, then YouTube is going to serve you the content. And still, they make excuses. This is why I am losing my fucking mind. And still, they make excuses. If you do not click on the content that you claim to want when it is given to you, then YouTube is not going to serve you additional content. You are in control of the algorithm for you. You are 100% in control of your own algorithm. It is entirely based on your actions. If you and again, no one is under any obligation here. Truly, if you don't want the school's content, congratulations, it's not going to be produced anymore. So you don't need to worry about it. Problem solved. You didn't want it, you didn't click on it. YouTube stopped serving it. It dragged down the rest of the content on my channel. Even when it's handed to you on a silver platter, you still don't click on it. You still don't watch it. And then you make excuses. How dare you talk to your audience like this? Well, stop telling me you want things that you don't want. Stop begging me to do things that you don't value. Stop demanding that I spend all my time doing things that you are going to do nothing with. The only way, if I am wrong about this, because right now what I'm seeing are plain numbers. I did a Steven Crowder stream at 2 a.m. and it got 15,000 views and made me like roughly with the other Steven, like over $1,000 for the Steven Crowder content. The autistic sex ed content, which is the content that people claim to want, has made me a grand total of $24 and no one is effing clicking on it and watching it. Even when I hand it to you in the most easy way that I possibly can. So don't tell me, don't fucking make excuses. If you want me to produce the school's content and to make that available, then you need to go and watch the autistic sex ed content that I have created a playlist for you for. You can watch the other stuff too, but I'm particularly paying attention to autistic sex ed right now. And if you're unwilling to do that, if I can create Steven Crowder content at 2 a.m. with no effort at all, then you're not going to get any more of the content, and that's just going to be the way it is. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. Jen says, we all know the school's issues are more critical than anything Crowder puts out, but I understand your frustration, and Dr. K, maybe walking away will be good for your health and mental health. Well, that's exactly it. Is that I have heard this bullshit from my audience for way too long. And by the way, it's not just my audience, because I have really dedicated people in my audience, and many of them actually fund the content. And for the people that are funding it, you're still going to get it. You're just going to get it behind a paywall, and there's going to be a lot less of it. And we're going to talk about that in a moment. But my bigger issue here is that we all understand that the schools are ground zero. We all understand, in theory, that if we lose the schools, we lose. We all understand what they're doing to kids, in theory. But when I actually show you evidence of this, you don't want to watch it. When I actually show evidence of the policies, when I show evidence of the documents, the teacher trainings, when I show evidence of what's going on in the after school clubs, it is the least watched content on my channel. It has been dragging down the rest of my channel for 2 years. I have begged, I've pleaded, I've cajoled, I've done everything I can think of to try to get you guys to watch the more important content, and what you prefer to do is to argue with me and to make excuses and say, "How dare you treat us like this? How dare you tell us what to watch? How dare you tell us what to like?" Okay, well, you don't have to do anything. But I'm not gonna keep doing it. I'm not gonna keep creating this content for you because you're not watching it and you don't appreciate it. Sorry. Brian, I watch pretty much every day and interact. The only video from yesterday that popped into my feed was the one I commented on. I had to search for the ones you posted. Yeah, well, Brian, I appreciate that, except that there is literally nothing else that I can do at this point. There's nothing else I can do. I have quite literally done everything that I can do. So if people are not willing to subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, visit the homepage, follow the links I have given them through multiple posts over multiple social media platforms, if people are willing, guys, like I'm going to break, if you are waiting for YouTube to serve you this content, chances are that is never going to happen because you haven't been clicking on the content in the first place when it is served to you. And because you haven't been clicking on it and you've been hate watching Dylan Mulvaney instead, YouTube is taking that as an indication. I'm not saying that of you, Brian, specifically. I'm saying that in general. Like YouTube is taking that as an indication that you don't want the content. And so it's not serving it to you. And even if it's not serving it to you, I have given you 87 ways from Sunday to watch the content. I've done everything I can do. There is nothing more I can do. So I am staying up all hours of the night to produce this content. I am putting more energy into it than any other type of content that I do. It's not getting watched. It's not getting shared. It's not getting liked. The media refuses to cover it because they prefer to cover stories about women in low-cut tops. There's nothing else I can do. And I'm not going to continue to kill myself. I'm just not. Like that ride is over. Well, Peter, and I do appreciate your support. You know that, but what I will say is that I stream every single day at 5 p.m. I have set up websites where people can join email lists to get notifications of when I'm streaming. Have done this consistently for a really long time. I post new content on my channel almost every single day of the week. I don't know how much more you guys want me to do when it seems that you guys are sitting back and waiting for YouTube to serve you the content. But if I do a 2 a.m. post about Steven Crowder, holy shit. We're talking about a different world. And let's just put aside like what do you guys want to know what happens if I do a 2 a.m. post about Tim Pool? If you're not willing to show up and proactively look for things and look at things in your subscriptions and follow the links I'm giving you on social media and follow the mailing list that I made for you to get updates and all like I have done everything that I can. There's nothing more that I can do. I cannot force people to engage in this. Well, no, because what I wanna do, Tim, is the school's content. That's what I actually want to do, and that's why I'm so grumpy about this entire thing because I am heartbroken. I feel like I've had a breakup because I wanna do the thing that no one wants to watch. So there's nothing I can do anymore. It's like I've had to have some hard conversations with myself, and it is what it is. Trendlin says, I wish that your message was getting out farther than it currently is. I do my part by sharing it to Facebook and Twitter. Your work is so important. I do appreciate that, Trendlin, but it's not. And I've tried for 2 years now, and I've beaten my head against the wall, and, you know, everything that I can try. Hang on, I'm just scrolling through the chat. King Peter, thank you for the super chat. And guys, thank you for the super chats. I really do appreciate it. I'm fine with you paywalling long form content if your YouTube becomes a place to house 4 to 10 minute clips that will help you in the algorithm. Mixed content hurts channels, unfortunately. Well, I mean, I'm not going to do paywall content on YouTube. There's no point to that. There aren't enough members in my channel to make that worthwhile. And the only content that I make money on YouTube is live streams because of the super chats. I don't make money on any of the clips that I post because again, people don't fucking watch them. Like I don't make money on the clips that I post. The only thing that I make money on YouTube is long form live streams. That's it. And not even like that much, but enough to make it something that I'm willing to keep doing. So paywalling content on YouTube is not an option. Doing this school's content on YouTube is no longer an option because people refuse to watch it and it drags down everything else. So the only thing that leaves me with Peter is drama, gossipy, pop culture content in long form live streams on YouTube. And I don't know exactly what that's going to look like. I mean, it's going to take the form of covering stuff related to the culture war because that is what this show is about. But that's just what it is. I At some point you have to face reality of like this is what the numbers say. This is what people are willing to watch. They are not willing to watch the serious content. They are not willing to watch the important content. And the media is not willing to cover it. And so like if I can't get coverage on it and I can't get people to watch it, like the only thing that I can do is come back to try to justify this somehow. And the only way I can justify it is live streams. So I will not be paywalling long form content. I will just not be doing long form content that matters on YouTube. I'll do it in text over on my Substack, but I'm not going to do it on YouTube anymore. And that makes me really sad. It really does. It's why I'm really upset. The Philosophist, unfortunately, 90% of people only want sensationalized BS. Glorified celebrity gossip always wins over substance. It's unfortunate, but it explains a lot. Well, but the thing is that I I handed you guys exactly what you needed to do in order to help me to justify continue doing this content. I handed it to people on a silver platter. I said, here is exactly what needs to happen. You need to watch these videos. Here they are. Here's the link. Here's a playlist. Here's clips that are less than 3 minutes long. Here are multiple social media posts explaining this to you. I just wrote a Substack article explaining this to you, and people still aren't doing it. And so it's like I tried everything I could. I prayed so hard. This might sound ridiculous, but, like, I really prayed about this. I was like, "Please, God, get the views up on this fucking content so that I can have some way to justify it. So that I can rationalize it in some way. Can you please just help people find it? Help the algorithm, like, fucking push it out for once? Can you please do some help some media outlet finally cover the fucking thing?" I prayed so hard, but nothing. Nothing. Why doesn't Tim cover this? Tim doesn't cover it because Tim doesn't like me, and Tim blocked me on Twitter when I told him that he wasn't covering the important content because he doesn't wanna hear it, and, so that'll never happen. That'll never happen. Let's see, I'm just scrolling through the chat, guys. No, there's no reason to combine it because people don't watch it. This is another thing. Like, guys, this is I've made this clear several times over the last couple days. This is not a negotiation. I am not going to continue to create content that you are not watching. I have done it for 2 years. This is not gonna be do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, because a little bit of that is content that you have shown me repeatedly that you are not willing to watch. So if you want me to create this content, then go watch the autistic sex ed stuff, go share the autistic sex ed stuff, go like the autistic sex ed stuff, go leave a comment on the autistic I like, I'm not even asking you guys to pay for it. I'm just saying go fucking watch what you told me you wanted. Like, and I still can't get people to do it. And by the way, if people think this is about money, half of those videos are demonetized. So no, this is not about money. Half of those videos are demonetized. Oh, that's what you meant. Sorry, I misunderstood. Well, and this is the frustration, isn't it? Is that even when people are sharing it, even when people are going into these groups that all they do all day, every day is talk about grooming, grooming, grooming. Oh my God, grooming, 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 grooming. Ah, pedophiles everywhere. Ah! Even when you share this content in those specific communities, they still don't fucking watch it. And do you want to know why? What I think anyway. What I think is that everyone's screaming groomer, everyone's screaming pedophile, everyone's screaming about drag queens, everyone's screaming about all this stuff like save kids, we have to save the children. It's all a virtue signal. That's the most fucked up part of all of this. It's the only conclusion that I can draw. It's a giant virtue signal. Well, you want me to be satisfied when 500 people watch the content that tens of thousands of people claim to want, but 15,000 people watch the Steven Crowder content? No. Sorry, no. Doesn't matter. As I've already explained, doesn't matter. You guys have all the direct links. I've already made the decision. Chris, the decision is made entirely based on views. So I haven't even really made the decision. The audience has made the decision. And I have beat the drum. I have put the links out there. I have begged, I have pleaded, I have done multiple live streams. I have done everything I can think of to get the audience to watch this content so that I don't have to make this decision. So the audience has made the decision. The audience has decided that they want YouTube drama content and that they will not watch the school's content. They won't do it. So it's not my call. I have let this go. I did everything I could do, and now I've washed my hands of it. And the audience and their actions will tell me what people want. And what it's telling me so far is that people don't wanna watch it. They know about it. Tucker Carlson knows about it. Well, not I don't know if he specifically knows about it, but people working for Tucker Carlson know about it. Megyn Kelly follows me on Twitter. I DM'd it to Megyn Kelly. Nothing. Megyn Kelly has refused to report on my stuff on, like, multiple occasions. Like, downright rejected it. So, that's fine. They're both allowed. No one is obligated to do anything. But if people think that the only reason that this hasn't been reported on is because the media is not aware of it, no, they are aware of it. Fox News invited me on Fox and Friends to talk about it. And then, half an hour after I said yes, they canceled. They know about it. They made the decision that it was not important. And I could say the same thing of every other conservative media outlet, except I never notify the Daily Wire of things because if the Daily Wire knows what I'm doing, they just steal my content and they call it theirs. So there's no point there. But they all know. They all know. Kino says, "Don't worry about the porcupine. I'm going to cover all the cause." No, 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 no. We'll talk about this offline. No, 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 no. I appreciate the offer. I really do. We'll talk about this offline. You have done so, so, so much. This is not, I don't want people to think that I'm like destitute because I'm not. That is not the case. This is not a matter of money. This is a matter of feeling as though I am grossly wasting my time and killing myself and destroying my mental health, and quite frankly, not being great for my physical health either, to create this content that people tell me over and over and over and over and over and over and over again that they want, and then they don't watch it and they don't do anything with it and it gets no coverage and it's some of the most outlandish shit that you've seen on the internet anywhere, and we all know that. But because I don't toe the conservative line, and because I'm not a Christian or a Jew, because they really don't like my religion, that's more important than anything. So it is what it is, I guess. Scott says, "I feel like we are being placed by both, we are all being placed by both sides." Oh yeah, both sides suck. I am planning to make the content generally that I think will get the most views, which is going to be more pop culture drama bullshit content. And it's going to suck. I'm not happy about it. Which is part of why I'm so upset. Oh, no, no, no. And I already see we got some people spamming the chat. No, no, no. Let's see. May the 4th be with you. Indeed, indeed, indeed. Let's see, Lizard, just do what you enjoy and want to do. Well, no, that's not going to work though, because what I enjoy and want to do is not content that people want. I don't know why on earth would I continue to kill myself to do content that people don't want, because it's a slap in the face. It's the most important content that I do. Have done, I guess. It's the most important content that I've done. It's the most important content that I've created. It's the most impactful content if people actually use it. But it's like getting slapped in the face every time I create it and then no one watches it, so. Let me see. We're going to get into the real content in a second here, guys. I just want to make sure that people are clear about this. So if you have more questions about how I came to this decision and why I came to this decision. I did a stream last night that you can watch to get more information on that. Oh no, we've tried that. We've tried that, and he won't do it. Kino and I worked very hard trying to shame Tim into covering the Don Bulldog story. And what Tim did is he went on his show and lied to his audience and said that we never gave him the full 10-minute footage of the Don Bulldog hoax attack when he did have the 10-minute footage. It was sitting in his DMs on Twitter. It was sitting in his DMs on Instagram. It was emailed to him at 3 different email addresses. It was super chatted into him, telling him to look at his fucking Twitter DMs about 15 times that night. And Tim still told his audience, I don't have the 10-minute footage. I only have the 10-second footage. And then because he lied to his audience that night, I did a whole live stream where I put Tim's name in the title and said, Tim, here is the footage you fucking asked for. And I played the footage live on the stream with his name in the title. So there was no excuse. Tim just lied. He lied and he decided to deflect, and he's allowed to. It's his show. He can cover whatever he wants to cover. But I don't think that we're going to be successful at shaming him into doing the right thing, because we tried and it didn't work. And I now no longer have any use for him, to be honest. The moment that Tim unblocked the quartering and made this big declaration on Twitter saying, we really need to work together because we're up against real enemies here and we all need to work together. Do you know what happened do you guys remember this? The quartering, behaving like a complete and total jackass, spent days going after Eliza Blue for clout and money. And in that little kerfuffle, Tim ended up blocking him on Twitter. And then the quartering made several videos about Tim blocking him on Twitter, again for clout and money. And then Tim made this big show on Twitter where he said, we all need to work together because we're up against real enemies here and we all need to work together. Well, when Tim did that, I sent Tim a DM because I still had access to DM him for some reason. I don't really know why, but I did. So I sent Tim a DM and I said, Tim, if you're really serious about working with people to fight the left, then there are many better people for you to align with. There are real activists out there every single day. And I wasn't shilling for myself because I don't want to go on that show. I don't want to have anything to do with it. Me going on that show would involve me being called fat and ugly for 3 hours. And I just don't want to. And so like I wasn't talking about me. I was talking about other people that I'm not going to name because I don't want to get them in trouble. But like there are real activists that are actually doing real shit that Tim Pool will not give the time of day to. And so I DM'd him on Twitter because I had access to do it. And I said, Tim, there are real activists that are actually doing real shit in the real world. And I can tell you who those people are. And you've got to start like interacting with these people if this is serious. If you actually mean what you said here, like I can tell you who to talk to. And he blocked me because Tim is so serious about everyone, let's work together to fight back against the left. He's so serious. You can always tell what people actually believe from their actions, guys. Not from their words, not from the proclamations they make on Twitter, not from the videos they produce. You can always tell what people really believe from their actions. Beth, thank you for the super chat. Because you work so hard, I understand your frustration. You need to do something. I attend school board meetings and review criteria. I think that's great, Beth. Thank you for doing that. Saxton, did you get my email with the definition of woman? Well, I did get a email, but I don't think it had the definition of woman in it. It had a subject line saying definition of woman, but it didn't have any content that led to me led to me thinking you were defining woman. So if you want to email me again, that would be great. James Jones, there's a lot of people who watch the school stuff and then are a lot and then there are no, okay, so there are I'm gonna read this again. There are people who watch the school stuff, and then there are lots of Tim Pool Crowder fans who will watch anything with their name in it. Sadly, that's true. And I really thought I was so naive about this. I really thought that if I just kept exposing things that were going on that no one else was exposing. I really, really thought that people would come around after a while. I really thought that if I just kept making the content that was showing you things that I don't I mean, again, guys, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I really don't think that anyone else on the internet has shown you some of the things that I've shown you. If I'm wrong, I mean, like, I would love to if there are other people doing what I'm doing, please tell me who they are because I would love to talk to them because I've been making this shit up as I go along by myself. And so, like, I really thought that if I just kinda kept my head down, eventually it would change, but it didn't. By you, I mean listeners. I know what you mean, Beth, I think, and thank you for that. Let me see, guys, I'm just going through the chat. ZE, thank you for the super chat. See, like, here's the thing, guys, and, like, I feel so guilty about this. ZE, Carlin, I just got a paid subscription. I'm still catching up on your stuff, but working on it. Late to the party. Substack is new for me. I emailed you. I'm a man of my word. I'm gonna try. Well, thank you. I do appreciate that. And listen, guys, I'm gonna say this too. I've had a lot of people signing up as paid supporters on my Substack over the last couple days because I've been talking about this, and I really appreciate it. And I really mean this. Like, this wasn't about money. I know it might seem like that. I don't know how it actually could because the videos I'm asking you to watch are demonetized. But like it's really not about money for me. It's more about just feeling as though I am wasting my time. And then we have people like Richard, so views and put it in what you believe in. Well, Richard, if you're not watching the content that I'm creating, then it means nothing. So views and put it. Are you shitting me? Richard, here's what I want you to do, buddy. I want you to get up every day and then sit at a computer and work for 10 to 15 hours a day, every single day, to produce content for 2 years without a vacation that people on the internet are claiming that they want and really value and really just can't live without because it's so critical. I want you to do that every single day, 10 to 15 hours a day for 2 straight years. I want you to look at numbers saying that people aren't fucking watching the work you're doing, even though they're telling you that they desperately want you to do it. And then I want you to say, well, you know what? My principles are more important to me than being able to make a living or being able to produce content that people will actually want. And even though no one is watching my fucking content that they claim that they want, I'm still going to get up and do it. You're welcome to do it. Richard, you are welcome to take the torch and to carry it and to spend all of your free time posting content that people claim is critically important and then refuse to watch. Let me see, guys. I'm just scrolling through the chat. You don't even know what the topic of the stream is about today, so I would refrain from telling me things that we haven't even talked about yet. It's not throttled, Brooklyn. People are not watching it. I'm sorry, guys. We are going to dispense with the excuses. It's not throttled. People are not watching it. They're not clicking on it. Things get throttled when people don't click on it when they're served it. This is not a conspiracy, guys. Mass genocides, I'm not always active, but I tell many about your work and research. I'm sorry you are discouraged, but you are amazing and your work is necessary. I appreciate that you guys think my work is necessary. I really do. Sadly, not enough people do. If listen, I'm going to say this again. If you guys want me to keep doing this, then what you need to do is not pay me money, not do a super chat, not do a subscription to the Substack because while I appreciate those things and I will never turn them away, I do appreciate them, but that's not what I'm asking you to do. What I am asking you to do, if you want me to continue doing the school's content, is to sit down and watch the content. I'm not asking for money. I'm not even asking for money from views because half of the content is demonetized. I'm asking that you sit down, you watch the content, you like the content, you leave a comment on the content, and you share the content. And maybe if you're feeling extra saucy, email the content out around to your media to try to get them to actually do their fucking jobs for once in their lives. That's what I'm asking. I'm not asking for money. I'm asking for it to be valued. I'm asking for you to show up for the things that you say you want me to do. I'm going to give you one more example of that in a second, but I want to get through these super chats because, guys, I really do appreciate them. Hugs, Dr. K. I usually watch all your live streams while driving to work. I'm subscribed to both. I'm sorry. I'm sorry too. I wish there was something that I could do to get people to watch the content that they say they want. But I'm going to give you guys another example, and then we're going to get into our stream of the day to talk about the alt-right. So on my Substack this morning, I posted an article kind of explaining all of this and really breaking it down. And one of the things I want to make you aware of is that this is not the this has been a problem for a really long time. Like me creating this content and saying, here's what I can do with the schools. I can do this with the schools. I can do that with the schools. I can do this other thing with the schools. It actually has been a problem for a really long time for me to get people to engage with this. I'm going to give you an example of this. So this is on my Substack where you guys can find it, carlin.substack.com. And by the way, guys, the Substack, I do not anticipate substantive changes to the Substack content. What I'm talking about is the YouTube content. I'm not talking about Substack. I'm not talking about the private schools exposed program. I'm not talking about the content that people are paying me money for, okay? I am talking when I'm saying I'm not going to do the school stuff anymore. What I mean is on YouTube and on Twitter and basically anywhere public where people are pissing all over it when I'm giving them stuff for free. So I want to be very clear about that. But I want to make you guys aware of something, and I'm not going to read this whole article. You can read it on your own. But back in March, this wasn't the first time I got an inkling that I might have to change the entire direction of my content. Because back in March, I wrote this article. I said, help me create these Unwoke resources for you. And in this, I summarized all of the things that I had already done that year. And I said, here are the things when you subscribe to my Substack. Here are the things that I will create for you if I can get people to subscribe as a paid subscriber to my Substack. Casmar, thank you for the super sticker. I really do appreciate it. And I appreciate the email from the other day. I know I didn't answer, but I did appreciate it. And on this list, I said, if you guys subscribe, make a paid subscription to the Substack, there's a couple things I'm going to do. I'm going to create the largest archive of school equity and gender documentation on the internet. I will build the largest archive of public school equity and gender policies on the internet. It will be completely free and available for all to use, reference, and contribute to. And I said I would do something called Activists Uncovered, where I said I wanted to build a directory of woke activist organizations working in public schools that is freely available to use, reference, and contribute to. So I said to you, if you want to support my work financially, here is exactly what I'm going to do with it. And I think that these are actually two really important projects. Okay. I think that building an online equity archive is actually one of the most important things that can happen, to actually document all of the documentation and the policies broken down by school district, to make sure they're all archived so that even if the school district deletes them, we can still get access to them later. That was a project I was actively working on. And I actually have, I cannot even tell you guys, I have a metric fuck ton of school documents that I could currently put in this archive, except the problem is that I need the time in order to be able to do it, because it takes about a dozen hours for me to create a single school page. Okay. But I said I would do it if people would sign up to the Substack to fund it. The other thing was building off of this equity archive. At the same time, I was going to create a master database of, here are all of the activist organizations in the public schools, and here's what they do. Here's what schools they're working in. Here are the people working for them. Here are the trainings. And we have all this information because we have it from the school websites themselves. And it's just a matter of organizing it and saying, here's what you need. So if you know that Glisten is showing up in your schools, then we can say, okay, Glisten is in all these schools. Here's what you need to know about Glisten. Here's the training that Glisten does. And we are going to be actually watching a training from Glisten tomorrow. And I was going to create a directory of that. Now, I think personally that these are two very important projects. A massive online database that's freely available, open to everyone, of all of this documentation, and a directory so that if you see a woke organization showing up in your kid's school, you're going to be able to know who they are, what they represent, all of that stuff. So I sent this out to my 13,000 person mailing list in March. And I said, if you think that these things are valuable, then what I need you to do is sign up for a paid subscription on my Substack, because that's going to be the main place that I'm trying to fund things through, to be able to allow me to get to a place to do it. Now, in order to do these projects, I need 1,000 paid Substack supporters at $5 a month or $50 a year. I basically need to have like a base level of income so that I don't have to spend all my time on the internet to be able to pay my mortgage. You know what I'm saying? Now, I could go off and do organizational consulting, but I don't actually want to do that. I want to be able to give you guys a useful resource and to be able to say, I will do this for you, and I'm glad to do it, and I'm glad to put all my time into doing it. But what I need you to do is to support the work for $5 a month or $50 a year or more if you want to. And of course, I would always appreciate that, but you don't have to. I need 1,000 paying supporters to my Substack before I get started on these projects. Does that seem fair to people? I'm really just asking in the chat right now. Does that seem like a fair trade? Like, both of these projects would basically eat up my life. That's not an exaggeration. I wouldn't be able to do other stuff if I'm doing these projects. Does that seem fair to you? That in exchange for 1,000 people paying me $5 a month or $50 a year, I then direct all my energy to doing stuff like this. Okay, so people in the chat are saying that's a fair trade. Do we, follow-up question, do you think that these things would be valuable? I think these things are pretty valuable. I don't know of anyone else that's creating stuff like this. Maybe other people don't think they're valuable, though. I thought that the school's content on YouTube was going to be valuable. Maybe people just don't think that this is valuable. Fair enough. You don't have to think it's valuable. I don't want people telling me stuff that they don't really mean, right? All right. Does anyone want to guess how many paid supporters I got when I sent this ask out and said, if I can get enough people to sign up for the Substack to fund this, to make sure my time is covered, this is what I'm going to do with it. Does anyone want to guess how many people of my 13,000 person mailing list thought that that would be something that they would want? 0. 0 is the answer. I got 0 paid subscribers off of this post. 0. None. And so that was actually a pretty big blow to me. I didn't anticipate that. I really thought that if I said, I'm going to do this incredibly valuable thing that I think is valuable, but you know what? Maybe other people don't think it's valuable, and that's fair enough. I mean, it's obvious to me that no person thinks they're valuable. Yes, they're real people. They're real people. They're real people who have signed up for my mailing list. And so I was a little bit taken aback by that, if I'm honest about it. I really did not expect that, and so I sent this out in March, and that was kinda when I started thinking, "Is this really something people want and are serious about?" And I was really upset because, again, this was a project that I really wanted to do, and it is a project that I will do when I get 1,000 paid subscribers in my Substack. Now, I have hundreds of paid subscribers in my Substack. I still have a little ways to go before I hit 1,000. Nope, because my full videos are recorded via live stream. I don't pre-record them. So that was actually the first indication that people didn't really want the content that they claim to want. The second indication was when I couldn't get anyone to watch or cover autistic sex ed. And the final indication was yesterday when I did everything within my power to say, like, last chance, guys, this is the big push. If you don't want this content to go away, then here is exactly what you need to do. And I'm not even asking for money. I'm not. Just watch the fucking content and share it and like it. And that's all I need you to do. And people still wouldn't do it. Armani says, can we talk about how ironic is it that we have jobs conservatives expect you to work for free? Free as in not seeing an ROI on time spent versus audience engagement. Love you, Dr. K. Thank you, Armani. I do appreciate that. How am I not giving free stuff away? I do give free stuff away. This is the thing, because I've also gotten a lot of suggestions, and I know people are trying to help. I know people are trying to help out with these suggestions. I already give free stuff away to people who are subscribed. I have for over a year. I already have multiple platforms people can subscribe on. I have for a really long time. I already have various levels that people can subscribe on. I've already done all of this, guys. I already have mailing lists that people can sign up for, you know? So that's what it is. And I hope that maybe a miracle will happen. Maybe a miracle will happen. Zaxton said, I just emailed you the definition again. I appreciate that. Thank you. ZE says, people said we were nuts for pulling my sister out of school, but I knew I smelled something off. Your work has given me vindication. The Equity Archive is an excellent idea. Training and context matters. I appreciate that. And I really do hope. Oh, you want t-shirts? Oh, yeah? You want t-shirts? That's going to be the thing that people fund? Oh, yeah? What's this? What's this? Already did it. There you go. Enjoy. Shop away. Am I waiting until the weekend to gather all of my data? Well, no. If the data changes, Shauna, then I will change my mind. But the fact of the matter is that I've been doing YouTube for 3 years now. I can tell exactly when a video is going to go viral and when it's not going to go viral. I can look at the data and know how the video is going to perform. If people want to go and watch the content, I will see the numbers go up. But I know enough about how this works now to not anticipate that that's going to happen. Maybe I'm wrong. Like I said, I would absolutely love for there to be a miracle and for people to I I so desperately want people to prove me wrong. I nothing would make me happier than for people to prove me wrong. So prove me wrong. Armani says, I subbed to your Substack last night and just got your book. Thank you, Armani. I'm sorry this is unfolding this way, but I'm happy to be a part of this journey with you. I really do appreciate it. Reagan says, Carlin works harder and longer each day than pretty much the majority of content creators on here. It's not a lack of her doing everything she possibly can. We need to show her we want it. And I hope you do. I really hope you do. But guys, that's about enough of that. A couple quick things before we get started. Number one, we will be doing happy hour tomorrow. Happy hour is a woke training. Well, thank you for signing up for Schools Exposed. That's awesome. There's going to be an update coming to Schools Exposed. Now that I actually this is actually going to be great for Schools Exposed. This is actually going to be really fucking awesome for Schools Exposed. Schools Exposed is going to get totally taken to the next level after this. So I do appreciate you signing up for that. So we are going to be watching, we are going to be doing happy hour tomorrow. And happy hour is when we do a woke training from start to finish. And we watch it and we talk about it. And tomorrow we are going to be watching training from Glisten. And this is something happy hour is not going away right away. I am not thrilled with the performance of happy hour, but I've been doing happy hour for a really long time. It's a staple on the channel. So I'm not anticipating happy hour going away just yet. Tomorrow we are going to be watching a training from Glisten about LGBTQ plus advocacy in special education. So, and I think it's actually going to feature our friend Dylan from Autistic Sex Education because I found the training on Glisten's website. How fun is that? That's going to be tomorrow at 5 p.m. if you want to come back for that. Okay, here we're coming into the negotiation again, Kevin. No. What if Carlin mixes up garbage clickbait content with useful content in 7-minute videos? No. I already make clips, Kevin. I already make clips that people don't watch. So why on earth would I make more clips that people aren't going to watch? You know what I'm saying? If you want me to watch to make the content, you need to watch the content. No negotiation, no fucking bargaining. This is an all or nothing thing. If you want me to make content about the schools, you need to watch the content that I'm making about the schools. If you do not watch the content I'm making about the schools, then I'm going to cease to make the content about the schools because you've shown me that you don't actually want it. There is no negotiation, there is no bargaining, there's no compromise, there's no 50-50. This is a shit or get off the pot moment, guys. That's what this is. I've done my part. People need to show up. But today we're going to be doing something a little different because in amongst the many comments that I actually got on my channel yesterday, I actually got some really helpful ones about with people suggesting that I watch videos about the coming far right backlash. And as you know, it's an hour into the stream. We're finally getting into the content. Yay, we made it. As you know, I don't believe that the far left is really any different than the far right. I think they're two sides of the same coin. I think they're the same. I don't think that the Democrats are any different than the Republicans. I don't think that the progressives are any different than the conservatives. Now, they care about different issues, but I think both are fundamentally authoritarian. And I have been warning now for 2 years. I have been warning for 2 effing years that there is a coming backlash on the far right. And I don't think I'm the only one that's noticed this. Because I started seeing, after Joe Biden got into office, I started seeing a slow build. And it's only gotten worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And I think the pendulum is going to swing back in the other direction. And I think it's going to be bad. And so I don't believe any authoritarian is better than any other authoritarian. And quite frankly, I have had people in my Twitter feed for the last several, because I tweeted this out yesterday. And do you know what showed up in my Twitter feed over and over and over again? I would prefer far right authoritarians to far left authoritarians. I would prefer a Christian theocracy over what we have now. I'm sorry, what? What? That's terrifying. The right, and it's not even just the far right anymore, I'm starting to see this show up generally on the conservative right. They're actively talking about enacting a Christian theocracy. They're actively advocating for overt authoritarianism. And I've seen these people. I researched the white identitarians really in depth for about 6 to 8 weeks, like a couple years ago. These people are dangerous. They are toxic. They are far more vile than anything I've seen on the left, and I've seen some shit on the left, as you guys know. And this, to me, it is far more terrifying for me to live in a right-wing authoritarian society than a left-wing authoritarian society, to be really quite blunt. That's how I feel about it. In a left-wing authoritarian society, I'm not saying I want that. I don't want that. I've actively tried to fight back against that every step of the way. But if I had to choose, I sure as shit wouldn't choose a right-wing Christian theocracy. And I think it's a bad idea. So, you don't have to be here, bro. You don't have to be here. Let me be real clear. Even though I want people watching the school's content, authoritarians are not welcome here. I don't care if you're on the left or you're on the right. I don't care if I lose every single subscriber I have to this channel. Authoritarians are not welcome here. We just blocked our little Pepe friend in the chat because he couldn't help throwing an insult. Guys, as a reminder, in my chat, I do not have an unmoderated chat. There are 2 rules in my chat. Number 1, don't be a dick. Do not insult me. Do not insult other people in the chat. I don't care if you insult the people in the video because they're not here. We have to exist in a space with each other. And I don't want to hear it. Number 2, no whining. If you whine and complain when I ask you to stop doing something and you throw a hissy fit like a toddler, I'm going to block you because I don't have time for that bullshit. The right censors more. They started with the banning books. People have been going crazy with that, which is exactly what I said would happen. I said this as soon as Moms for Liberty started banning books. I denounced Moms for Liberty. I did it on this channel. You can go back and watch. Well, no, the Jews care pretty strongly that I'm not a Jew. And do you know how I know this? Because I was resoundingly canceled by Prager University when I said that I don't believe that Hitler went to hell because I don't believe that hell exists and I believe that God loves everyone. I was resoundingly canceled and thrown under the bus. So they care. Trust me, they care. They care. Absolutely. Anyway, so we're going to watch this video. And this was published 3 weeks ago. It's called from What If I don't know how to pronounce that, but the you guys can see on the screen, and it's called The Coming Far Right Backlash. It's about 50 minutes long, and I thought that we would watch it and talk about it. I have no hatred for the Jews, Ellen. I think you guys have the most amazing food. I'm a big fan of Shabbat dinner. Like I have no hatred towards the Jews at all. I don't really care. I appreciate the Jews, but I'm just saying that they don't like me that much. Even though I'm the one that went after the actual anti-Semites. Anyway, what if alt history? Oh, thank you. Thank you. So we're going to watch this because this was recommended, and that's what we're going to start with. I also was sent these videos about Andrew Torba, who is the CEO of Gab. And Andrew Torba is effing crazy. Has anyone here spent any time on Gab? Because I've spent time on Gab. Do you know what they call me on Gab? Does anyone want to take a guess at what they call me to insult me on Gab? It's actually rather ironic given the state of our current conversation. When I go on Gab, I'm called a Jew repeatedly, not in a nice way. I have had them Photoshop my face onto propaganda that makes me look like like an animal, a Jewish animal. Do you know what I'm saying? Like really, really bad. Overtly. Yeah. So yeah, Andrew Torba is the CEO of Gab, and he actively supports some of the worst elements that you are going to find on the internet on that platform. And I've seen it firsthand. And so I do have some videos from him, from this guy talking about him. They were recommended to me. I don't know if we'll get to them today, but I do have them here, and I am interested in watching them. But yeah, Shauna is right on Gab. It's so funny. The like the PragerU people think I'm an anti-Semite, and the actual anti-Semites call me a Jew as a slur because I went after and exposed the actual anti-Semites in reporting that I did. But Prager doesn't care about that. We're overlooking that. Nope, that doesn't count because Carlin must be framed as an anti-Semite in order to support our narrative. So I do think it's rather ironic. The right-wing Jews think I'm an anti-Semite. The far right-wing Christian theocrats think I'm a Jew. Can't please anyone, I guess. Anyway, guys, so I thought that we would start off by watching this video. So what if alt history, the coming far right backlash, just to try to like envision a world and just to talk about it and see what we think about it. And I just like it's a thought exercise, okay? Like I think that this is happening. I'm pretty sure it is. I think it's going to be really dangerous. So let's just partake and let's see. Does that sound like a good plan? And I'm going to sit here because I've had a rough couple of days, and I'm going to do some knitting, and I'm going to work out my feelings, all right? And so I thank you guys for listening to the first half of the stream. Again, if you want more information about the changes that I'm going to be making, you can go and watch the stream I did last night because I do go much more in depth to it. And now I just want to sit back and watch some scary content because I like this dystopian shit. And that's what we're going to do. So if you guys are down with that, please mount that like button for me. I'm just getting the sound set up. Let's see. Let's watch the coming far right backlash.
There is progress, which is why we aren't giant toads living in salty tidal pools anymore, but it's nowhere near to a straight path.
Hang on. Shauna says, Prager spreads the anti-word very broadly. The anti-word? The anti-Semite word? Yeah, they do, don't they? I was quite frankly shocked at that. Like, really shocked. I was really surprised. But PragerU used me for what they could, just like every other conservative fucking media outlet in 2020. Um, yeah, indeed. Anyway. Oh, we got an authoritarian in the house. Do you guys know that with your book banning, you're literally just making those books more appealing and you're not actually solving the problem because the books that you ban and you look like Nazis when you do it, the books that you ban are just being replaced with more books. And by the way, I have the entire fucking book list of the books that they're replacing them with. I put it on my Substack a couple weeks ago. Anyone reported on that? Nope. Because it's about book banning and it's about censorship and it's about control. It's not actually keeping pornography out of the hands of children. It's not about that at all. It is only about control. That's it.
With countless ups, downs, and countervening directions, history does move in a direction, but I can swear that it's not one that you, or even I, can really understand. One of the modern left's favorite phrases is that they are on the right side of history. However, what if I were to tell you that that wasn't true, that the next 2 decades belong to the very opposite group, the far right? From looking at the patterns in history and trends, I believe that the pendulum will swing back in the other direction for the next few decades.
Correct?
Although I myself am a right winger, it would be a lie for me to say I'm not terrified for how far the pendulum might go in the other direction. For many of you, this will shatter your conception of the universe, and I'm excited to see what the comments are for this video. Well, why are we wasting time? Let's get started.
Oh. Nick, thank you for notifying me because I have to look at member chats in a different place and I didn't see it. Let me just scroll back and find Nick's member chat real quick, guys. I apologize. Let me see. Sorry, Nick. It was a while ago, it seems. Sadly, StreamYard doesn't integrate. Okay, well, that's not working. Hang on. Hang on, Nick. Let me look in a different place. Oh, here it is. Nick says, Guy argued with me about groomers at PorcFest and said they deserve hate. I said, fine, let's talk about groomers in school. He stopped talking after that. Oh, yeah, that PorcFest bullshit on Twitter. That's a whole other story for a whole other day, Nick. But I do appreciate you being a member of the channel, and I'm sorry I missed that member chat earlier.
There's a lot going on in the world right now, and it would be great to try and understand some of it, but it frequently feels difficult to find the time to read or study in daily life. Thankfully, Blinkist has what you need.
No, I'm not doing a commercial
Blinkist
today.
is an app that has
no
over 5
commercial.
We're all strangers to the world we live in. That since we're so familiar with our current time, that we have no frame of reference for what's strange, wrong, and all that, since we don't know what makes us special. We're fish in a pond that have never seen the outside world.
It's on my
and even
Substack.
more so, the bodies of those fish are mostly made up of water of the pond they live in the same way we make up and cannot be separated from the era of history we live in.
Cooley says, this is from the I literally have sitting back over here, Cooley. You can't see it. I have a whole pile of envelopes with the books in it. I just need to bring them to the post office. I apologize for the delay on that. I really do.
Culture we live in and all that. Thus, it's incredibly funny to see the left portray itself as the rebels and the little guy. Well, in fact, they are the ruling class today. In the modern West, the left is the establishment. You can easily see this in that Jordan Peterson, Andrew Tate, and Donald Trump have all had legal action taken against them, while there's no left-wing equivalent. In my own story, YouTube has removed my videos on completely innocuous educational topics like American regional cultures or Southeast Asian anthropology without telling me why. The conservative satire site The Babylon...
Oh, see, Rick, this really will get you banned. See, Rick, you don't belong on this channel, bro. Because here's the thing. If you don't agree with everything Carlin says, she will accuse you of being a dick and
then ban you, and then she wonders why her videos don't get a lot of views.
No, Rick. No, 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 no. I'm banning you because you are more interested in
Owning the libs.
than you are in actually doing anything of substance. People like you are a waste of my fucking time and my fucking energy. You provide no value to the community. You will never support the work I'm doing. You don't even watch the real stuff I do. You just come into my chat and complain and sow dissension. And so I don't want you here, bro. And if that means that I have lower views on my channels because I am not willing to pander to overt assholes that are only here to disrupt and cause problems and provide no value at all in return, then that's perfectly fine with me. Goodbye. You can go find yourself an unmoderated chat like Nick Ricada or Tim Pool. You will have a great time over there, and I don't have to deal with your shit anymore, bro. Shauna, as Rothbard said, right-wing takeover of a left-wing project, which happens because the right, for all their flaws, do have follow-through and the left doesn't. That's why they're scary. No, 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 no. This is not right. You think the left doesn't have follow-through? Shauna, the left currently controls every major institution in this country. You don't think they have follow through? They control everything. Of course they have follow through. The right are the ones with no follow through. Let me see. So we're clear. And I kind of feel like I made this very clear, but the chat is telling me that I have not made this clear. My tolerance for bullshit and nonsense is pretty fucking minimal right now. So if you have thoughts about how I speak to people who are just here to disrupt things, who provide absolutely no value, who just complain, 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 who are just here to gaslight because they're bored, you can take those thoughts somewhere else because I don't want to hear it, guys. I don't want to hear it. I am not going to pander to people for you to watch content that you claim to want. I'm just going to stop doing the content if you're not going to watch it.
B has this really funny segment about how a very large amount of American conservative leaders have been kicked off Twitter, but at the same time, people like Ayatollah Khomeini of Iran, lots of officials for the Chinese Communist Party, which is committing genocide, as well as even Vladimir Putin's Russian government Twitter account have maintained, showing a clear ideological bias. The dominant social institutions of academia, the media, Hollywood, most of the news, the bureaucracy, large parts of social media, growing parts of the military, the largest corporations and defense contractors, significant parts of religious institutions, in the United States, the presidency, and
Brooklyn, this is such a great point. I 100% agree with this. I tweeted out today that this whole Christian nationalist narrative, well, no, I don't think this is a narrative. I don't think that Christian nationalists are a narrative. Christian nationalists are real. It's drag queen story hour that's the narrative. PSYOP triggers for people to get all their fifis and people keep falling for it. So again, like what I think is that drag queen story hour is the narrative. Drag queen story hour is not important. Drag queen story hour is a symptom. It is nothing more than that. And the real shit is going on that is going on is so much more terrifying than drag queen story hour could ever hope to be, but people don't watch it and so they don't know. And so I don't think the Christian nationalist thing is a narrative, though. I think the Christian nationalist thing is actually pretty overt. They talk about it overtly. They've been talking about it overtly for a really long time. They flat out say they want a Christian theocracy. They're not hiding it. It's kind of like with the woke left and the socialists. The woke left and the socialists don't hide that they want to abolish all private property. They want the state to control the means of production or any of that. Yeah, this is silly. This is silly. Unfucking believable. Guys, the moral panic over drag queens is a giant distraction that is going to accomplish absolutely nothing except giving the left more power. Shauna, did you see the Destiny destroy Milo in debate? When? I don't watch those things, so no, I didn't see that. But like, when was it?
Large parts of the legislature are run by left wingers and often very radical ones at that. Although the right occasionally wins elections, the left runs every major institution in society.
Oh, it's
The
3 weeks
quote
ago.
unquote
I'll check it out.
rebels and oppressed now run society. As befits an old entrenched elite, they crack down on dissent and try to spread their ideology. They have tried to turn every movie, TV show, all art, classes in school and university, and every other output for human thought into their propaganda.
Well,
If
and
you
they've
can't see
succeeded.
this already, you don't want to see it, or you're old enough to be detached from the main part of the society. As said
True.
before, they silence those that disagree with them and have ever increasing standards of purity used to instill fanaticism in their ranks. This has been the way the world has been since the 19th.
The right silences people who disagree with them too. This is not just on the left, it's on the right. Authoritarians silence people who disagree with them. Milo trolled Fuentes hard today. What did he do, Brucey? Let me know. Give me an update. I haven't been paying attention to Milo or Nick Fuentes all week, so
1960s, and people often don't realize how much of a shift it's been. Our society had a series of massive social shifts that occurred in the 1960s, which I think are on the same degree as the rise of Christianity, Islam, or a major world religion. This is include trying to push for total male and female social equality, the decoupling of sex from baby making and leading to free love, the idea of complete racial and ethnic equality, that war is inherently immoral, as is empire building, that all people are equally intelligent and we just need better socializing to create a utopia. This is a bigger than the idea of equity or equal outcomes and equality or legal equality. The sheer demographic power of the baby boomer generation, which in Western countries grew up in the easiest era in history ever, as I talk about in this video, has meant that the 1960s cultural norms have been pushed ever since, and now have reached the point of absurdity. The message that the baby boomers pushed is that judging someone else is the worst thing a person can do, and that humanity is inherently good, both of which anyone who has studied human nature or the historic record can see as a complete lie. However,
oh,
since the
holy shit.
post-war era was so
Hey guys, I just want to pop in to say I literally just looked at my Substack numbers and I see how many people have subscribed to my Substack since as like a paid subscriber since the stream started. And I just want to really say thank you for that. I was not I really wasn't expecting it. It wasn't the point of the point I was making, but I know I know that you guys are showing me through your paid subscriptions, like you're showing me that you appreciate my content and that you want to support it, and I'm really grateful. I'm really grateful for that. That makes me feel really good, and I wanted to say thank you. I just saw the numbers. I hadn't seen them before.
wealthy, there is no pressure towards telling the truth or having a realistic appraisal of reality, and so people believed what they wanted to believe. Our sense of time is kind of warped today. It's easy for people my age to forget the 60s are still in living memory, and the norm in history is for trends to play out over centuries. Thus, we would only start to see the negative cultural results of choices made in the 60s today, since only now we're seeing the people who remember the pre-60s social order dying off. Coding, in my opinion, is really character building, since a single error in the code's logic throws the whole code off. It teaches discipline and focus, and people often fail to realize that the real world is often pretty similar. A car needs so many things to work, and a single error can keep it from functioning. Societies are the same, in that a single problem, like a failed military, a terrible economy, a religion that's not compelling, and many more, can doom a society to failure. The way healthy societies view the world is that their traditions are almost like a castle against the chaos of the world. Almost everything new that's attempted fails, and traditions and evolutionary processes mean we can pull on billions of years of our ancestors who have been trying to figure out how to make things work. The problem with most societies is they're incapable of changing out their traditions, dooming their societies to fossilization. However, the most successful cultures, for example the West, are able to keep their core identities and then develop institutions like democracies or markets that gradually change out traditions as the world changes so they can keep their vigor as the world keeps changing around them. However, as Thomas Sowell has put it, the left has an open view of the world, or that humans are perfectible and can be trained to turn the world into a utopia. They hold that if there's a disparity in the world, it must stem from someone's conscious judgment. The reality of the world is that inequality is the norm and stems from a variety of reasons, whether geographic.
I just want to make a general statement because I'm just kind of like sitting here processing how many people have signed up as like paid subscribers on my Substack since I started this stream, and it's quite a few. And you know, I've gotten a lot of comments in the past couple days basically telling me I'm a horrible person and how dare I tell people what content to engage with, and I'm horrible to my audience and I yell at my audience and all this stuff. And sometimes when you're getting told how horrible of a person you are all day, every day, when really you're just expressing normal human frustration at the fact that people claim to care about things that they don't really care about that are actually important things, um, it got really hard. And I was like, you know what? Like again, it's like, it's like a why do I even bother type moment. And then people come through and you can see that the people who complain and try to gaslight you, I'm not talking about Twitter, I'm talking about YouTube. The people who complain and try to gaslight you, they're never going to actually step up and do what's required, you know? And I think it's important to remember that. And those people, I've tried so hard to like curate an audience where I don't allow that element here because they destroy. They do nothing but destroy. They are outrage junkies that are looking for outrage clickbait, that are just shit posting all the time, and nothing productive comes of it. But it's like it's so hard when you just see them show up over and over and over and over and over again. And it makes me feel good to see the other side of it, that like there are people that do appreciate what I'm doing, and usually those are the quieter people. And I just really appreciate it. And guys, like I want to say this too, and this is a mistake that I've really made, but I'm really going to be correcting. If you're making content, focus your content on the people who value what you do and value the perspective you have. Don't try to win over everyone because you will never be able to win everyone over. People are either going to be a hell yes or a hell no to you. And it's fine if they're a hell no. You don't want to make everyone a hell yes because you probably aren't saying anything important. If everyone loves you, you are not saying anything important and you are not saying anything original. You're just parroting talking points that people want to hear. And so it's okay for people to hate you. It's okay for people not to appreciate what you put out there. It's okay for people to to insult you and call you a horrible person. Those are not your people. And for as much as people think that I focus too much energy on the trolls, because what that really means is people are annoyed that I'm saying things that they don't want to hear because it hurts their fragile sensibilities. Like, you know, if you don't, if you aren't clear about who your content is for, then you're going to drown in a sea of mediocrity. And I don't want that. And I don't think the people that my content is for want that. So it's okay when it's okay to say no to the people who you are obviously not a match for, because that opens you up to people who will love what you're doing.
Historical, cultural, and so forth. However, the left thinks the only cause of any kind of disparity is someone oppressing someone else. This may sound silly when put in these terms, but it's an incredibly enticing view of the world since it paints the liberators as heroes and abdicates them from any self-reflection and responsibility since they're the good people who are saving the world. A reasonable person looks at the historic record and uses it to project the future since the past is the only thing we have and thus it's the best thing we have to understand the future. This isn't controversial in the sciences but is in the social sciences and humanities. This is since leftists would like to project their religious view of infinite progress that will give them more power, or the moral arc of history. In effect, they are substituting a serious study in exchange for a fantasy. However, the changes that have been made since the 60s presupposes a series of assumptions about the world that have never been tested or evaluated. Those that men and women can healthily have the same social roles, that the people pushing these agendas are wise and capable, that there are not long-standing reasons that different ethnicities have different results, that society's structure itself is evil. Pushing this many changes upon a society this fast is not reform, it's suicide. And the people pushing this even say their goal is the complete destruction of the previous society. However, they fail to tell us what plans they have to replace it, only criticizing the previous
No,
culture.
that's not
However,
true.
since their plan
That is not true at all. They are extremely clear about the plans they have to replace it. This is why we watch socialism content. This is why we watch Socialism Saturday, because they are extremely and extraordinarily clear about the plans that they have to replace it. The problem is that most people are not listening to them and not finding their content and not believing them when they tell us exactly what they're going to do. Now, the people on my channel and regular viewers of Socialism Saturday, I want to ask you in the chat, do we know what the socialists have planned for society once they destroy it? Have we heard it from their mouth over and over and over again with Socialism Saturday? Have they told us what they're going to do? Because it's out there. We're going to get confirmation in the chat in a second. Armani says, I see how the right is currently crafting a narrative. I've seen more and more conservatives calling drag shows sex shows. It's the truth. It's the truth. The right is crafting a narrative. Yup. Yup. We know what they're going to do because we watch Socialism Saturday every Saturday at 6 p.m. on the channel, and we're coming up to Red May Socialism Saturday, so there's going to be extra socialism content. So if you want to know what they are going to do, you need to come to Socialism Saturday. You need to watch the socialism content on the channel. We're going to be doing some extra because there's a group out in Seattle that's doing extra socialism content, so we're going to snipe that stream and do it live on the channel. But they will absolutely tell you what they're trying to do.
Plan has no clear direction, we need them to lead us through this plan. This plan is exactly what the Soviet expert whose job was to destroy non-communist societies,
Brucey,
Yuri
that's not very
Bezmenov,
nice.
said the leftist
Jeez.
scheme was. The reality of history is that it bounces back and forth. An empire rises, then falls into barbarism, then 400 years later, a scholar uncovers ancient scrolls that allow a renaissance. Sometimes society becomes more liberal, then religious fanaticism rolls over the society when things get more chaotic. History generally does trend towards greater complexity and advancement, but it's unclear if it will do that over the next.
No, drag shows are not just sex shows. This is wrong. Drag shows are not just sex shows. Some of them are hypersexualized, some of them are not. Anyone who believes that drag shows are just sex shows has never been to a drag show and is probably listening to the right-wing narrative that is being spun up to make you guys hate drag queens, which is really just code for hating gay men, by the way. I hope you guys understand that. When they're hating drag queens so much, it's because they're hating on gay men. That's mostly why. It's not about saving kids. It's not about protecting kids. It's not about any of that. Because you can go to a drag show that is not sexualized at all, in which everyone is clothed. And guess what? They're singing show tunes, and it's a lot of fun. And it's like a cartoon character, and that's all it is. If you've never been to a drag show before, instead of judging based on what you hear in conservative media, go to a fucking drag show and see what they are. Honestly, actually go to a so-called family-friendly drag show. Go see what they are. Go see for yourself. Don't take anyone's word for it, guys. If it's anything more than men in dresses with fabulous hair and makeup singing show tunes, let me know.
Next 1,000 years, or if we're facing another dark age. However, an order based on rebelling against non-order cannot survive. What was harmless rebellion among teenagers in the 50s has now become an all-consuming vortex. The left's lack of sense of stability dooms their movement. I've spent this video so far ripping into the left, but as this video will show, I am long-term more worried at the reaction that could come from this. The left is so detached from reality that it cannot win, as we'll see, but its resentful reaction could be very effective. Politics at its core is the art of building coalitions of separate interest groups and incentivizing them to follow you and listen to your agenda. However, the modern left wing order of strategy has been trying to build the worst coalition possible, or the coalition of losers. We're going to look at the social incentives provided by both the left and the right wing's coalitions as keys to seeing the future. You need to view our current era, or that stemming back to World War II, as a conscious reaction to World War II. The current ruling class is trying to be the exact opposite of the Nazis. Where the Nazis were nationalistic, masculine, militaristic, racist, and traditional, the modern left is transnational, feminine, pacifist, toxically anti-racist, and progressive. With the decline of Christianity, which pushed intellectual humility, we didn't think further than let's just do the opposite of the Nazis since they're evil. Also, Marxists purposely twisted this for their own benefit. The modern West hates men, its dominant ethnicities, tradition, force, and all that.
Nope.
However,
Not
the
right.
problem with
Not correct. Not correct. Marxists want to get rid of all gender. Marxists don't just hate men. This is a lie. This is a lie that has been perpetrated by conservatives and quite frankly the alt-right, who don't understand what they're talking about because they aren't actually listening to what the Marxists are saying. The Marxists do not hate men. What they want is to abolish the gender binary. They not only want to get rid of men, they also want to get rid of women. They want everyone to be non-binary. They want a world full of theys. They talk about this openly in their training. Look up queer Marxism. Queer Marxism is all about eliminating the gender binary, abolishing the gender binary, liberating us from the gender binary, getting rid of it entirely. They have every single person pushing this has they as their pronoun. They don't want to be he, they don't want to be she, they want to eliminate the gender binary. I have been posting content on Rumble for 2 years, and yet every single day I am asked, and I'm not blaming you because you say you don't have Rumble Rect. Every single day I'm asked, Carlin, are you on Rumble? Why aren't you on Rumble? Your content would do great on Rumble. Are you on Rumble? Where are you on Rumble? I'm on Rumble, guys. I'm quite literally streaming on Rumble right now. Like, I'm on Rumble. No one watches on there. No offense. Actually, there might be people watching on there. Let me check real quick and see. 33 people watching right now. Okay, Rumble. All right. You're picking up. Shout out to people on Rumble. I also stream on Odyssey, Rockfin, Getter. I think I'm on Twitter right now. Not even sure. Anyway.
Building a coalition of everyone who wasn't part of the previous coalition of power is that it just doesn't make sense. There are often long-standing historic reasons why the dominant ethnic group, men and all that, are the ones in charge. If you have a country like America and you want it to function, you can't flagellate white people for practicality's
Go
sake
fuck
since
yourself,
they're
Murphy
three-quarters
School.
of the population. While if we're being really brutal, America has flourished while being incredibly cruel to black people, which are only 12% of the population. The reason I went through that long segment earlier on trying to explain the left's worldview is that you can only understand how they
Well, no, it's not. That's not why they attack motherhood. That's not why they attack motherhood. I understand why you think that, Shauna. But does anyone in the chat want to venture a guess about why they attack motherhood? Why do the socialists and the Marxists attack motherhood? Let's see who's been paying attention on Socialism Saturday. I do love a good pop quiz. It takes a second for people to actually chat in because there's a slight delay. Breaks the bonds of family. Family. They hate motherhood because they want to destroy the family, because they want to break up the family. They want to get rid of the biological family. They want to abolish the family. That's why. They want all children. Exactly. They want all you guys are so good. They want all children born via surrogacy. There are books written about this. They talk about it all the time. On Sunday, for a Sunday special, we're doing a Sunday special stream this week because our favorite Abolish the Family socialist, Sophie, is going to be presenting live as a part of Red May. and they're streaming it on their YouTube channel. And so we will be doing a Sunday special with Abolish the Family Sophie to talk about this. But that's why they're attacking motherhood. They want to get rid of the biological family entirely. They want all children born via surrogacy, presumably assigned to families via the state to the worthy elite, kind of like in Brave New World or Logan's Run or The Giver or any of those other things. There is a really old book that describes all this. What is that book, JD? What is that book that's on the tip of our tongue?
Are this bad at coalition building and having a coherent strategy through understanding how their worldview thinks having a completely idealistic scheme would work. The left's coalition is that between the government, Marxists, women, and ethnic or sexual minorities, including immigrants, largely against white men and the traditions of the society. As said before, the problem with the left's coalition
ding,
is that it's
ding.
literally
That's the book.
designed off groups that have failed to end up in the ruling coalition. Let's take ethnic minorities. Asians and Hispanics largely want to assimilate into white America, and the track record for former slave black populations gaining power is Liberia and Haiti, both of which are failed states that practice slavery.
Hang on, I got a super chat from Armani. Armani, thank you. The essay Towards the Queerest Insurrection from 2015 talks about how Marxists even hate the idea of monogamous gay families with their own children. Cons don't realize even Marxists hate gay families. Marxists hate all families. Marxists see families as being reflective of the bourgeois or capitalism because they hate that children are considered property of their parents. And remember, they want to abolish all private property. If anyone asks me about Rumble again, your ass is getting booted. I'm serious. No more fucking around Murphy's Pool.
Largely since they gained none of the skills needed for
Jesus
leadership
Christ.
due to centuries of oppression. For women, they're absolutely wonderful as individuals and a big reason to keep living as a man, and they also form the bedrock of society. However, women have absolutely no track record for forming large groups. All of society's major institutions, whether militaries, governments, religions, corporations, have been founded across world history and almost entirely staffed by men. Even nunneries and brothels, entirely female organizations, are run by men. If this was a cultural thing, not a biological, it would fluctuate around world history, but it doesn't. Due to never having to evolve to hunt as a group, women do not have the same instinct towards cooperation that men do. Most really pretty girls have been horribly bullied in high school, and most of their friends are guys, since women tear down successful, beautiful women, since their sexual competition is largely zero.
Okay, listen, I'm gonna hear this guy out, but this kind of sounds like it's made up nonsense from an incel. I don't know who runs this channel. I don't know anything about it, but to say that like some broad generalizations are being made that I don't think I necessarily agree with, but we're gonna this is some incel shit. It is. This is some. I'm sure he's doing his best.
Zero sum. Well, men are sexually rewarded by being what amounts to successful hunters and bringing stuff for the whole community. Studies show women are just as aggressive as men, and they compete through relationships using something my friend Kurt Doolittle refers to as GSR, or gossiping, shaming, and rallying. When you look at cancel culture, how social justice pushes shaming to reach its goals, it's feminine aggression. Likewise, since women have been protected by men from the harshest parts of nature, like war, animals, forest fires, or the jungle, social justice can afford to be idealistic. The reason the left is so scared of physical force, saying wars, the police, or even spanking children is wrong, is that GSR simply cannot compete with men's physical force. As a general rule, any man who doesn't hate himself loves women as a species. Women have largely escaped the horrors of their own female cooperation by seducing men and forming families, in which they can use their sex as leverage against a single man, rather than trying to fight a social institution in which they as individuals have no leverage. If you were to see a GSR-based movement, it would have two separate things. The first is that it would despise families and the sexes getting along, because that's normally what happens in society where the sexes pair off and start families. And modern social justice thinks being a mother is the worst thing a woman can do because it would, in effect, pull a woman away from fighting against men for the goals of the movement and make her just a member of society. And the second thing is that you would see a vicious undercurrent against successful women. And we see that with the body positivity movement, where it's fundamentally a matter of personal responsibility to keep a healthy weight. But this movement talks about pretty privilege and says you cannot be judged for being overweight and unattractive. The third big group is the state. A group requires leadership, and in a healthy society, the leadership serves the people. But in many cases over history, that state has enslaved and even cannibalized its own populations. One of the books that was able to predict the current political divide was Leviathan and Its Enemies. It talks about the current ruling class, who unironically are taught through a leftist or Marxist philosophic prism, use the downtrodden and oppressed as an excuse to push the bureaucracy and the college educated into every facet of life. As I've said before in my previous videos, all of the left's policies push things that give the college educated influence and power in society, while the right tries to benefit those who do not base their power off college degrees. The state and educated push all these oppressed groups at the expense of the dominant culture, since the
I don't know
dominant
about
culture
that.
in Western countries has lots of social
Hang on.
protections called freedoms.
Let's try to let's just think about that for a second. Does the right do everything to try to benefit people without college degrees? Do we actually think that that's true? I mean, it is true that the right lulls people with college degrees, I think. Like, that's true enough. They shit on anyone with a college degree. But do they actively try to enact policies that only support people without a college degree? I don't think that's true. Now, I have no problem with, like, I mean, I actually think, it's that's the narrative the right pushes. Yeah, I'm trying to search for, like, evidence of that in my head. Like, I'm like a big fan of, like, vocational school. Like, I don't think people need to go to college or anything just because I went to college for, like, a really long time. I don't think people need to go to college, but I'm just trying to, like, what policies is the right trying to enact to support people that didn't go to college? Behind closed doors, they don't like people without degrees. I agree with that. I agree.
And checks and balances that could curtail their desire to save the world. This may sound unbelievably cynical, but it is literally what the Frankfurt School, which modern leftism is based off, says their plan is. I really love the metaphor of the Leviathan since it's a reference to Hobbes's famous 17th century book Leviathan, which, in my opinion, correctly posits
You guys just keep signing up as paid supporters on my Substack, and it's really making me cry. I just keep getting all these emails and all these notifications of, like, another paid supporter, I'm like, "Holy shit." And again, it's not about the money, but, like, it really makes me feel good, and I really like, I know it makes me feel like people value what I'm doing, and I really do appreciate it.
the argument the state prevents mass violence and oppression. However, a big difference between the world that Hobbes wrote that in 400 years ago and today is that the state was so weak to barely function back then. So its growth was largely at the expense of bandits, pirates, oppressive local nobilities, and all that. However, starting in the 20th century, the state became so powerful as to strangle societies. However, the left uses the same justification as the Leviathan, bringing government into every aspect of life in order to protect people and makes things fair. The Leviathan is an even better metaphor since it's a reference to the sea monster from the Bible. In the cultural context the Bible was written in, the
Don't you worry,
Leviathan, and even
Yasmin,
more
that's not going
directly, the
anywhere.
Mesopotamian Tiamat it's very clearly based off, is the
I wanna be really clear. When I say I'm gonna stop doing content on the schools, that means, like, the schools expose stuff, the school investigation stuff, in regards to free YouTube content and free content on Twitter. That does not mean I'm gonna stop doing Socialism Saturday, alright? I love socialism content, and I think people like socialism content, and, and it does really well. Socialism Saturday does really well, and so don't worry, that's not going anywhere.
symbol of the force of feminine chaos in the universe. And I mean, fuck it. The left even uses demonic imagery to describe itself at this point. That doesn't get more chaos than that. And in the same way as Tiamat and Leviathan,
I think that's bullshit. I'm sorry. You cannot use a person dressed up in demonic clothes at a rock concert or a concert of any sort, because I'm not sure that like Sam Smith is like a rock musician, but like do people not remember Ozzy Osbourne? Do people not remember Kiss? Like like musicians have been dressing up in demonic crazy garb forever. To say that like Sam Smith's Grammy performance is like, this is proof that Satan is taking over. Like, like that just sounds silly, guys. Yeah, Gwar. Yeah, it just sounds silly. Come on.
were killed by the masculine god of the coherent strategy and written word, you will see a rebellion by young men kill the Leviathan. There's an African saying that goes, if you don't give the young men a place in the village, they will burn it down to feel its warmth. The Leviathan's coalition has made a couple completely fatal errors, which doom them over the next few decades. One of the two largest is that it simply provides no incentive for young men,
That's true,
who form
Ben.
the
I agree
gas
with
that
that.
powers a society, to work inside the system and not rebel against it. The paradox inside young men is that they are simultaneously by far the most powerful force in society, but they're also incredibly insecure. Young men are the demographic that wages war, explores, builds, does the vast majority of scientific or philosophic breakthroughs, is the major driving force behind the economy in both hours worked and in trying and discovering new things. Young men are the force that just pushes society forwards. And once societies start to age and lose young men, like Japan or Europe, they just stop doing anything new and decay. Young men are quite insecure because they're society's foot soldiers, and they're willing to do that in exchange for being a hero or getting a beautiful wife. However, this makes them extremely sensitive to political changes because it could.
This is some straight incel shit. It really is. I agree, bot. Yeah. He's like young, like you. Japan is not in decay. That's silly. And they're like, young men will only do things that result in them getting a pretty wife. Iron Maiden. Fuck, Elizabeth. I saw Iron Maiden once. I was trying to think of. I was like, what is the name? Like Iron Maiden. Iron Maiden is so good. That was demonic. Do you know? I actually had conservatives in my comments the other day trying to convince me that rock and roll music wasn't designed to appeal to teenagers. And like they never targeted teenagers with their demonic music, like demonic in quotes, right? And like where have you like does like who made Elvis famous? Can someone please remind me who made Elvis famous? And why was Elvis made? You're telling me that rock musicians weren't trying to sexualize teenagers with a straight face? Who made Elvis famous? Teenagers, teenage girls who went to his concerts, and he would gyrate his hips, and you'd have like teenage girls fainting in the audience over Elvis shaking his hips at them. And you're going to tell me that rock musicians have never tried to sexualize teenagers before? Are you kidding me? Come on. They wouldn't even show it on TV. People just need to get a grip, and they need to rein it in, because it's like blaming, like really trying to pretend that this is the first generation in which sexual messages have been shown to like underage kids, and this has never happened before, and people just didn't survive. They just couldn't make it through. I'm not suggesting that it's like good. I mean, I think it's worthy of discussion, but to really pretend that this has never happened before and this is a new phenomenon and it's all the evil drag queens that are ruining everything. Come on. Can we please have a serious discussion about this?
Kill them. And
Oh,
that's why
Low Country with the Rumble rant, I guess. Thank you, Low Country, talking about my Substack over on Rumble. I appreciate it.
the audience for this YouTube channel is so heavily young men. You have twice as many female ancestors as male ancestors for a reason. A healthy society feeds young men stories of heroism in order for role models, gives them apprenticeships with older men who teach them useful skills to become stakeholders, and marries them off young. However, modern societies give young men absolutely no incentive to work with them. The economy is terrible, with social mobility collapsing with no direction forward for most young people. The media hates masculinity, refusing to put out any.
If you're having a serious conversation about it, then why can't I get you assholes to click on any of the content that I've made you explicitly showing grooming in schools? You are not having a serious conversation about it. You are having a moral panic and you are creating outrage mobs as a virtue signal. You are not having a serious conversation about it.
Content with male role models. The society pushes subservience and docility ever since childhood. The educational system, which provides socialization, is incredibly feminized. I remember when I was 10, I drew pictures of swords in my free time and I talked about battle and knights. And my parents were called in because they were worried I might become a school shooter. And that's just normal stuff guys do. If you look at sex, this picture is even more horrifying. Male virginity, for a series of reasons I tackle in this video, has quadrupled in the last 10 years. For the first time, a majority of people at age 30 are single and childless. I consider myself a decently connected and social guy. And of the 50 most handsome, charismatic, and successful guys I know, and this includes CEOs, influencers, and all that, about 3 are in relationships. Large groups of sexually frustrated young men are an incredibly good predictor of political violence. For some reference against the historic standard, in most cultures in the world, the young are married off at a young age by their parents, and the wives are basically slaves to their husbands. This isn't an especially good sexual orientation, but the fact that it's the historical and social norm around most of the world even today shows how keeping the number of sexually frustrated young men down and incentivizing them to work in society by having kids is so important. The sad truth is that women have been horribly oppressed by men over history, since societies are incentivized to sacrifice women to get men to work harder. This breaks down even more with the high divorce rate. Men work hard with the knowledge that they can get married and thus pass on their genes. However, with no-fault divorce, 40% of marriages fail, which is initiated in 70% of cases by women and among the college-educated.
Oh my God. This is like some Steven Crowder stuff. Going after no-fault divorce. Okay, I said this in regards to like the Crowder stuff. Like, coming from someone who has been married for almost, it's actually going to be on Happy May the 4th, by the way. On May 14th is the 12-year anniversary of when I met my husband, when he showed up to move me, because he was one of my movers, into the house that we currently live in today. And so I met my husband 12 years ago. We got married almost 6 months to the day after we met. We have been married ever since. So I'm saying this to people as someone who's been married for 12 years. You do not want to be in a marriage with someone who does not want to be in a marriage with you. Sometimes relationships just run their course. Sometimes something that is really good and really loving and really fulfilling for two people at one stage of their life becomes a nightmare down the road. And it's not necessarily anyone's fault. It's really not. If a relationship falls apart, sometimes it's one person's fault, and sometimes it's both people's fault, and sometimes it has just run its course. But there is nothing that I can think of that would be more like a bigger nightmare than trying to be in a marriage that one person does not want to be in anymore. You can always, and regardless of what this video says, with like this video is trying to make it seem like it's impossible for men to date. It is not impossible for men to date. It is not. It's not impossible for women to date. It's not impossible for men to date. It's not impossible for anyone to date. There are a million people out there who want to go out with someone and have a good time and hook up and have sex and be in a relationship and do whatever you want to do. I promise you, you can find someone, but you don't want to force people into being in a marriage that they don't want to be in.
90% among women. It's normal for a woman to walk away with the kids and a majority of a man's money. Marriage is the foundation of every society ever. And in the modern context, there's absolutely no incentive for a man to get married and have children, since he can lose everything for having done nothing wrong. Modern society shames young men for having done nothing wrong, rather imagined crimes committed by their ancestors. Young men are wired to look for female approval genetically to breed, and so having female disapproval scream at them will cause immense resentment. The feeling among young men that's not unwarranted is that they're in a losing game where no matter what they do, they fail. They have no direction forward or male role models, meaning in the really hard times we live in, which is why figures like Andrew Tate or Jordan Peterson are so successful. However, the Leviathans coalition is held together at the expense of young men. Thus, it cannot let up and give young men a bone. Also, like the creature it's named after, without belief in any kind of structure or strategy, the Leviathan pushes onwards inchoately. The Leviathan knows subconsciously that a young male rebellion is in the works, which is why it cracked down on Tate so harshly, since he had become a rallying cry that could be used against them. Peterson's demonized, except most.
The fact that these people are they're propping fucking Andrew Tate up as a hero. Okay, question for the chat, and I'm serious, and don't let my personal bias sway your answer. I want the honest truth. How many of you actually believe that Andrew Tate is a hero? Shout out to the 43 people watching on Rumble. I do appreciate you guys over there. How many people actually believe that Andrew Tate is a hero? Hang on, I'm gonna pull the Rumble chat up so I can see it next to my other chat. I wish it integrated with StreamYard. Rumble really needs to integrate with StreamYard so I can see both. Now I can see both Rumble chat and normal chat. Or normal chat being YouTube chat that's like in StreamYard. Andrew Tate is a narcissist. This is exactly right. Andrew Tate is a raging narcissist. He's a predator. He's a fucking beta. Like, I don't understand why this is the guy that people on the that young men on the right are holding up as like the savior and the poor victim of society. Bro, come on. Chris, okay, fair point. Not the villain he's been portrayed as. Okay, that might be. I can throw you that bone. It's like young men on the right, they pick some of the most horrible possible people in the world to like lift up and put on a pedestal, and then they wonder why people believe in like toxic masculinity. Andrew Tate is why people believe in toxic masculinity, guys. That's why.
Most of his philosophy is just telling young people to be responsible, and even his anti-trans takes would have been normal 10 years ago. I'm often called a Nazi or far right, even though I'm one of the very few people in the public sphere who
And I understand people in the chat are saying like that's the point he's trying to make. Okay, fine. But I'm asking a broader question of like, why does the right allow this to happen? Which is like it honestly, if you just look at it on the face of it, it's like it's just a really bad idea. Just like on the face of it. We don't need a long, in-depth rationalization of young men are oppressed and they can't find anyone to date and they can't find anyone to have sex with. And so they have to lift up the most toxic people as revenge on the world. You know what I'm saying?
actually talks about how other cultures and anthropology works. The thing with the Leviathan's coalition is that it's terrified of using physical force, having to rely upon GSR or gossiping, shaming, and rallying. That means that it actually has no real power, for as Mao Zedong said, power comes from the muzzle of a gun. When a society doesn't have the ability to actually use military force, it gets conquered. When young men get to the point where they are tired of the system, they have the veto power where the Leviathan can't really do anything. They can shame at the top of their lungs, but we're getting to the point where young men have nothing to lose socially and lots to
God.
gain by killing the Leviathan. Even
Isn't
since the
isn't this the truth? I love the way you phrase this, the philosophist. The right is too divided and unwilling to compromise with reality. That is exactly right. They are unwilling to compromise with reality. Naruto, thank you for the super chat. I have a rabbit hole for you to go down. Just DM'd you a couple articles. Helen Keller was a socialist. Well, of course Helen Keller was a socialist. Of course she was. Thank you for that. And then Benjamin says, clearly Andrew Tate isn't as smart as H.G. Tudor. The idea of Tudor living a life faking being a rich playboy billionaire. I don't know, man. I've seen H.G. Tudor's private Instagram. I like he let me follow his private Instagram. I don't know that he's faking it. I really don't know that he's faking it. I think he actually is. And you know what? Good for him. Fuck it. Good for him.
rightward tilt in just the social air among young men. It's going to take years to play out, but for so many young men that were just normal people, voted Democrat or Labor, been feminists and all of that, they're listening to right wingers since the left provides them absolutely no incentive, and they're drifting further and further to the right. It's normally a little bit beneath the radar where these young guys won't say it openly.
Fire Coral says the left has a toxic relationship with reality as well. Well, okay, conservatives and alt-rightists that are watching right now. Just because the left does it does not make it okay for you to do it. Just because the left engages in cancel culture doesn't mean that makes it acceptable for you to engage in cancel culture. If it is bad for the left to have a toxic relationship with reality, it is also bad for the right to have a toxic relationship with reality. Two wrongs don't make a right. We all learned this growing up. Just because someone else does something doesn't mean you should also do that thing. Come on. He is our favorite narcissist. H.G. Tudor is our favorite narcissist. It's true.
But once they're allowed to think or speak freely, you'll hear it come out. Left wingers fail to realize that the only reason the far right would seize power is because of them. There will be a tipping point in which the consensus changes. The thing with GSR is it's almost a form of magic, in which its only power comes from people believing it has power. This is the movement that will not evict the homeless from city centers or prevent criminals from violating property rights, let alone violently maintaining its power. The Leviathan is a giant deck of cards. The social order it's pushed since World War II has resulted in collapsing birth rates, which will kill the economies of every major country in the world, except America or India. Areas that are really going to get affected hard are China, Russia, Japan, or Europe. In America, we're still going to see a lot of aging. However, the breaking of societies that will come from this, where there are two 70-year-olds for each 25-year-old, will result in mass social changes towards family values and conservatism, so this traumatic event never happens again. A collapsing birth rate is the death of the feminist movement. It simply cannot survive this existential threat. If collapsing birth rates are destroying society, people aren't going to say, it's your choice whether or not you have children, you don't need a partner. They'll say, get a fucking partner and start pumping out kids.
You can
Women now
actually do
support the
that.
Leviathan since they believe it will help them. However, once the current generation of women realizes they are slated for deaths as lonely spinsters, which disincentivizes men from marrying them through the current divorce laws, you'll suddenly hear them change their tune. So many girls who are very proud in their 22 suddenly wish they had traded in their looks for a match earlier when their 34 or 40-year-olds divorcing think they'll have the same options as when they got married in their 20s. Remember, the Leviathan is incentivized to keep women lonely and angry,
All
since
right,
that's what
I'm gonna give all our incels watching right now like just a moment of clarity. All right. Well, it is true that older men sometimes want to date the young hot 20 something. It is also true that sometimes the young hot 20 something is really, really, really effing annoying. Like, really annoying. And sometimes older men, like we're talking like, they're their 40s, their 50s, stuff like that, they don't want to deal with the young, annoying, blonde 20 something who is in a very different place in her life than the old, even if they've like, we're not talking about when they have a midlife crisis, okay? When a man goes through a midlife crisis, that's when they're dating the young hot 20 something, right? But eventually they're going to come out of that midlife crisis and they're going to realize that this is a giant waste of effing time and that they're annoying. And I guess I'm saying that, like, this person is basically saying that women who are over 30 can't get married. That's not true. It's not true at all. They can absolutely find people to marry them. It happens all the time.
when they're the best foot soldiers. If the current trends continue, nearly half of women in their 20s will end up being unmarried, and a large part of that childless. Also, in America at least, one of the Leviathan's biggest weaknesses are that most minorities, such as Hispanics and Asians, would rather assimilate into the broader white society, which is why they immigrated to America in the first place, than push being victims, which Black people, who are only 12% of the population, can do convincingly, since they do have a long history of repression. Also, Hispanic and Asian young men have many of the same grievances against the Leviathan as young men. Likewise, older men will likely side with young men unless they are direct stakeholders in the previous order, seeing the current order as unsustainable since it so clearly hates masculinity. The leadership in corporations largely does not care about wokeness, it's just the
Hang on. I want to ask Philosophus a question. Philosophus says, I'm in my 40s and I prefer women in their 30s. Philosophus, can you explain why you prefer women in their 30s? I suspect I have an idea, but I would like any incels that might be watching to hear from you, an older, seasoned gentleman in his 40s, about why you might prefer a woman in their 30s rather than in their 20s. Shauna, thank you for the super chat. My aunt got divorced 5 years ago and got remarried to a wealthy man within 3 years. She's 68 and average looking. Guys, I really just cannot emphasize this enough. And this is true for women, this is true for men. If you want to find someone to date, I promise you that you can find someone to date. If you want to find someone to be in a relationship with, I promise you, you can find someone to be in a relationship with. But, here's the big caveat. You've got to get off the internet. You have got to stop looking for people online. You have got to stop doing this online dating bullshit. You've got to stop looking for someone through an app on your phone. Do you know what you need to do? You need to go out into the real world. You need to go do things you like. You need to go meet people where you're doing things that like you have in common at like a club or like some sort of activity or like the gym or something like that. There are any number of things you can do. You can go on meetup.com and find any sort of meetup that takes you into the real world around which you will meet real people. You can even go out to a bar and like meet people there, go to a speed dating event. I don't care if you go to dating events in person, but you've got to get off of your phone. Like, I'm not saying that online dating can't lead to relationships, but can we be honest that it's usually pretty dysfunctional? Just go meet people in the real world, no matter who you are, no matter what you look like, no matter what age you are. You can always find someone to be in a relationship with. You can always find someone to have sex with. You can always find someone to fall in love with. I'm not saying it'll happen overnight. It might take a little work, but your odds are going to substantially, and I mean substantially, increase if you get off the computer. Maybe I'm just an old person, but I mean, online dating was a thing when I was a teenager, so it's not like I'm unfamiliar with it. I'm just saying, get off of the computer. All right, I want to see if I can scroll through the chat to find. So, Philosophus says that as a man in his 40s, he prefers women in his 30s because they have a better grasp on life and a larger perspective. Exactly. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Bureaucratic staff they have to hire to run their corporations is. And it's the cultural norm being pushed now that you get pushback for going against. Wokeness hurts corporate performances, as we've plainly seen with Disney as a great example. And so the market has to readjust, or these broken organizations will be replaced by newer, more vigorous ones. This shift in consensus has to occur over the next few decades for the reasons I've explained before. As I've explained in this video, I will be surprised if it's directly violent or an actual war, since the Leviathan is totally unwilling to use physical force. As I have said before, I'm more worried at the reaction than the Leviathan itself. The Leviathan is fundamentally delusional and weak. Its only damage can come from destroying pre-existing social units rather than actively building itself. However, angry white men have an extremely good track record at being very good at being cruel for long periods of time, since it's realistic, organized, and effective. One of the things that worries me is a combination of the looming financial crisis that will crush many young people's already not great standards of living, thus further radicalizing them with nothing to lose. The Leviathan pays absolutely no attention to class issues, ironically, and in fact has buy-in from major corporations, meaning these economic problems will end up being co-opted by the far right. It's kind of funny that the right has traditionally been seen as the party of the wealthy and business interests, but similarly to Nazi Germany, where the Nazis positioned themselves as the party of the working German man who could
This is a
supply
good point. I
family,
agree with this.
stability, work, and having a normal life. The right can co-opt this because the left has become the party of the ruling class. And so a narrative we've seen a lot in the new right, because it might be true, is the World Economic Forum globalist elites are trying to crush the local working classes. As I've talked about before in previous videos, I think that America and Europe will have a major political crisis over the next 2 decades. However, I'm not going to go into as much detail about this in this video just because I've done so many hours before about it. But long story short, you can look at these various patterns to predict political and social crises, and the Western world has all of them. In the same way the baby boomer generation was able to dominate politics and society for over 60 years, my age group, or Gen Z, is the last big generation in America. And so you would expect us to also have a disproportionate influence over the next couple of decades. And if you look across Western history, you tend to see patterns of around 60 to 80 years of pushing a certain cultural trend, often in backlash to a previous one. There are 2 separate kinds of conservative revolution. The first is a more limited one in which the conservatives are able to seize power for a few decades due to a major mistake the left has made. However, the left still has the greater amount of cultural vigor and wins in the end. You saw this happen in Latin America a lot over the 20th century, as well as Central Europe in the 20th century. In this first scenario, we see some.
So, what I think is going to happen right now is I think we are about to see a hard swing towards authoritarianism on the right. I think it's already well underway. I think we're already seeing it. But the problem is that the left is going to use absolutely everything. I almost just made a mistake in my knitting. Here's what's going to happen. The left is going to use every single thing that the right tries to do. They're going to use it against them. So let me give you an example. The left right now, and I covered this on my Substack, the left right now is basically doing this big attack on parental rights. And so the right has been really hammering on parental rights over and over and over again, and rightfully so. They should be hammering on it. But does anyone know what the argument is that the left is making against parental right, like against the push towards parental rights that the right is doing? Does anyone know? And this is like a pop quiz to see who's been reading my Substack, because I explicitly talked about this. The left is making a very specific argument about parental rights that is about to come back and bite the left, or bite the right in the ass. Does anyone know? Anyone want to take a guess? So essentially, the right is saying we have parental rights and we want to know what's going on with our kids in school. We don't want you transing our kids. And those are all fair arguments. That's correct. But the response that the left has is, oh, yeah, well, if you have parental rights, then we have parental rights too. James Jones with the gold star today, James Jones. We have parental rights too, conservatives. We want to be able to trans our kids. We want to be able to bring our kids to a drag queen story hour. Why are you inhibiting our parental rights? And you know what? They're correct. Because freedom and liberty, and there's going to be a lot of feelings about what I'm about to say, freedom and liberty means the right to live in a way that you personally disagree with. If people on the left want to take their school choice money and pool it and create an entire school where every child is taught by a drag queen, they should have the right to do it. And you might not approve. You might not approve of their choices. You might think there's going to be dangerous and bad outcomes, but that's what parental rights means. And the left is using this argument against the right. And what the right is going to come back and do is the right is going to really bring the fucking hammer down. And then the left is going to say, look, they're the authoritarians we always told you they were. They hate trans people. That's why they're doing this. They just hate trans people. They won't let us. They talk about parental rights, but they won't let us trans our kids. They won't let us have our kids go to a drag show. They don't really believe in parental rights. They just believe in parental rights for them. We have to stop these fascists. They're trying to enforce their way of life on our kids. That's what they're going to do. And they're going to be correct. And then they're going to win. So that's one example of anything that the right does, the left is going to try to use it against them. And you can never, ever forget that the left is actually in the power position. The left are the ones that control every major institution in the country. They're in the power position. They are driving the narrative. So until the right learns how to play smarter and stops being reactionary to what the left is doing, they will constantly be on the back foot. The right has got to start to be more proactive and strategic in how it's going about things. And they're not. They're just reacting to whatever the left is doing. And that will ultimately be their downfall because whatever they do to react, the left will use against them. Shauna, I'm conservative and I think parent has a right to trans their kids, even though I think it's evil to do so. And this is the hardest part, guys, isn't it? Because freedom and liberty means that people have the option to live in a way that you don't personally approve of. And you can't save everyone. You cannot save kids that are being raised as babies without a gender from leftists who have Munchausen's by proxy, who are going to trans their kids. You can't save them. And I know that's not something people want to hear. I get it. I really do. I think it's horrible. These detransitioner stories are horrible. But freedom and liberty means the freedom and liberty to make decisions that you disagree with. And if you are not willing to allow for freedom and liberty for people who you disagree with, then ultimately that will be used against you to take away your freedom and your parental rights and your liberty. So if you don't want your freedom taken away, then you need to be the bigger person and allow other people to have theirs.
something that Carol Quigley, who is possibly the greatest historian of the last century, talks about, in that the West has had alternating periods between 50 to 100 years over the last 500 years of pushing ideologies that are either order or chaos based. Where the Renaissance was about humanism and art and all that that's very intuitive, after it came the Reformation that was very socially conservative and built around trying to fix people up for God better. And another example being the Enlightenment, which was all about trying to rationally improve society, followed by the Romantic period that had both very extreme, emotional, powerful movements on both the right and the left. And here's a text wall to go through this process. But social justice is possibly the biggest attempt at Western social engineering so far, or the order side. It's so much order, in fact, that it's failed and become a beast of chaos. And in reaction, you would see a more human, religious, intuitive philosophy that would probably exist as a reaction against how digitized and mechanical our lives are with the computer revolution.
Nate, do you want them to trans your kids? Then you need to stay out of their business. You don't get to tell other people how to parent their kids. I know you don't like this. I get it. Believe me, I really do understand why you don't like it. But you don't get to tell other people how to raise their kids if you want the freedom to raise your kids in the way that you want. And that's just the way it goes. And you don't know that they're destroying their lives. You don't know what's going to happen. Every journey is different. I am here to live a fundamentally different life than you are. I am here to do fundamentally different things. You know, everyone here is on a different path, and you can't judge other people's journeys. And you're also not supposed to interfere in other people's journeys, by the way. Sometimes some of the worst traumas we experience lead to us being the person that we were meant to be. And I understand why that leaves a sour taste in people's mouth, but no one on this earth lives a life without trauma. It extends to you paying attention to your own life and what is actually impacting you. That's what it is. What you guys are trying to do, and this is not condoning maps at all, because I know someone's going to take this shit out of context. So I'm going to get that out there right away so that the moment that what I'm about to say gets clipped out of context, I'm going to have the full clip to say, no, 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 not today, you fucking smear merchants. You are not in charge of other people's lives. You are not in charge of other people's journeys. Your job is to show up and do for you and your loved ones and your kids. It is not to control other people. So you are not the one that gets to draw the line anywhere. It's not your job to draw the line for other people.
German philosopher Hegel, although I really dislike a lot of his work, has an interesting point of a synthesis and an antithesis, where a society pushes a certain idea, then it pushes the opposite one, and then it finds what are the good points shared between both of them. And you
Hang on. We'll have this argument all day, conservatives. We will have this argument all day. I would agree with you if doctors were giving informed consent to patients, but they are not. Someone not giving informed consent to someone else is not your problem. It is not your life. Do I think that doctors should be doing informed consent? Yeah, sure. It's an ethical thing to do. Of course they should be. But just because some doctors are not does not mean that you get to become an authoritarian and control other people and their lives and their choices and their children. And the minute that you become an authoritarian, you lose all moral high ground. You are no longer someone that we should respect or listen to the moment that you try to control other people and their lives. And that's the rub. Let me see, just scrolling. Freedom doesn't mean freedom from consequences. People will face their consequences on their own. It is not your job to inflict consequences for other people. It's your job to worry about yourself. Shauna says, I also recently became pro choice because the right is now trying to ban the destruction of embryos from IVF. I can't co sign that level of control. And this is the thing, is like, if you keep hammering down on these authoritarian ideas, you are going to lose people who would have otherwise supported you because you go too far. I appreciate the super chat, Shauna. Thank you so much. No, that is what you said. That is what you said. The problem, Julia, is that you don't like having your words repeated back to you. Because when they're repeated back to you, then you sound very authoritarian. And you don't like that, but the reality is that the ideas that you are expressing are authoritarian. Beth, thank you for the super chat. You guys are being so generous today. I really do appreciate it. The left is very good at accusing the right of what they are doing. True, yes. They are always one step ahead. True. But do you honestly believe that they will stop if they are allowed to trans their own kids? I don't trust that. No, the left isn't going to stop at anything. The left will not stop at anything. The four goals of the woke left are always and forever: gain as much power as possible, destabilize the system, attack capitalism, usher in their Marxist utopia. They are not going to stop until they've ushered in their Marxist utopia. But that's all the more reason for the right to actually start playing smart. It's all the more reason that the right needs to get their shit together, and instead of constantly reacting to whatever the left is doing and constantly being on the back foot, they need to be proactive about their vision, why it's better, sticking to principles, becoming the carbon copy of the woke left on the right is not going to solve anything. It's actually just going to make it worse, and it's going to hand victory over to the left. So, no, the left will never stop. But that doesn't mean that a reactionary right is actually going to do anything. All right. Thank you, guys. Let's keep going.
You can see this in Western history, where often the reaction to the previous era is what the current era is about, with the Enlightenment being rationality, the Romantic era being emotionality, the Renaissance being the Greco-Roman heritage of Western civilization, the Reformation being the Christian Germanic barbarian. Writing in the 60s, Carol Quigley called the post-World War II era the era of social justice. And it's fundamentally the West's period of the most social engineering ever. And it's so based around rigid ideological structures or the search for order that it in fact has the opposite effect and becomes a beast of chaos. Also, if you look to the rise of the Nazi movement, and as I talk about in my video disgust promulgates right-wing authoritarianism. And our current society, and especially the left, is pushing massive amounts of behavior that just disgust normal people. Sam Smith's latest performance at the Grammys and the fact that it was supported by the establishment shows this. And so, as much as the left pushes, let's say, drag shows.
Can I make a confession? This is going to get me in such trouble. I don't like Sam Smith's music at all. I don't like Sam Smith's overt wokeism at all. But I do kind of love Sam Smith's like fuck you attitude to everyone. I love that Sam Smith is like overweight and he'll wear whatever fucking clothes he wants to wear and post pictures of himself in like a Speedo on a boat just because he knows it's going to piss people off. I love that he will go live on his Instagram like eating a bag of Doritos just to I Like, there's like, I love that he doesn't give an F. I am a very big fan of people who don't give an F, even if I disagree with them personally, because I like that attitude and I like that swagger. And it's kind of like, you know, he is comfortable with himself or they self. I don't know what his official pronouns are. I have no idea. But like, may we all be as comfortable with ourselves as Sam Smith is, regardless of if you like his music, regardless of if you like his performance, regardless of if you like his attitudes. He is laughing all the way to the bank, and good for him for doing it.
Or things that the normal person finds disgusting, they can expect a horrible reaction similar to Nazi Germany's reaction to the Weimar period. So the first situation, or the one I described before, is a conservative victory lasting around 80 years. The second one is that someone just straight up founds a new religion, strong sect of Christianity, or philosophy that acts as a religion. Across history, every religion has been a conservative revolution, where Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad, Confucius all did not view themselves as founding religions, but as fixing the previous religious teachings of their earlier society and finding something immutably ancient and true. And the thing is, conservative religious revolutions last for thousands of years. And an example of this is how the Hindu Brahmins were able to beat out the new Buddhists in 3rd century India. Another is the early Christians taking over the Roman Empire and establishing a more conservative philosophy that kept going for thousands of years. As I talk about in my video on the internet, I think this is actually decently plausible, because our society lacks any real unifying values. So there's a giant pressure towards a new religious formation, and on top of that, the internet allows mass preaching to go around the world instantly, thus
Well,
creating a
that's
new
true
avenue
enough.
for it. If you look at Spengler's theory of history, the West is currently in the era of Caesarism, and it's a pretty common pattern, actually, when societies try to adopt a different religion during Caesarism and the start of the Universal Empire, and then reject it later on and return to what they had before. You saw this in China, which tried to take Buddhism and then reverted back to Confucianism. In India, which tried Buddhism as well and then went back to Hinduism. In the Middle Eastern world, they tried Christianity for a few centuries and then reverted back to Islam, which is much more similar to the previous tribal religions they had. And in the West, we're trying Marxism for a few centuries. And then there's a pretty good shot from the precedent of us
Hang
returning to
on, hang on, hang
Christianity.
on. I'm looking at Make Live Bot over on Rumble. The two programs Carlin proposed, school woke content, are too late. The parents across the nation are already up in arms. Everything is moving much faster. Wrong. That is so wrong. That is so wrong. That's ridiculous. It is. Listen, if you really believe that parents are up in arms and the right is about to take back control of the schools at any moment, you are watching way too many conservative influencers who are overtly lying to you. And they do this all the time. They say, "We're winning. Woke is in decline. We're winning. We're beating them back." No, you're not. You are not anywhere close to beating them back. Because while you guys have been reading and crying over a single book in the school library, do you know what the left was doing? They were enacting all of their batshit insane ideas into school policy. They're all written into the school policy handbook. And not only are they written into the handbook, but they are bringing in every single teacher trainer that these school districts are hiring, are usually coming out of the diversity office now, because they all have diversity offices at the district level, and they're in charge of hiring the teacher trainers, and they're paying tens of thousands of dollars to train the teachers in the most crazy leftist woke bullshit that you've ever seen in your life, and it's all on the school websites a lot of the time. And guess what? Conservatives have convinced themselves that taking over school, we're going to take over school boards, guys. That'll do the trick. Does anyone on Rumble and or YouTube want to guess what school boards have control over? Now, it differs from state to state, but generally speaking, what do school boards actually have control over? They have control over the superintendent. Fine, they can fire the superintendent. They have control over certain budgeting decisions. Okay, fine. Do you know what most school boards have no control over at all? Curriculum. Most school boards, except in Vermont and Connecticut, have no control over what is being taught in the classroom at all. So the right, the conservatives, making this big push to take over school boards because that's how they're going to save the schools. Congratulations, guys. You still have no control over the curriculum. And while you've been complaining about genderqueer in the school library and putting all your resources into banning genderqueer out of the school library, and by the way, if you actually get genderqueer banned out of the school library, they have a list of like 87 books that they can replace genderqueer with that are just as bad, and you don't know the names of them. I know the names of them. They're on my Substack. But like you've been putting all your energy into this book banning bullshit and taking over school boards, so you have no control over curriculum. You have no control over the teacher training. And when you guys have been complaining about doing that, the left has very literally been building their crazy ideas into the curriculum across the country. They're now integrating it with every single class, starting when they're in kindergarten. And you don't know that because you've been paying attention to one book in the school library and you don't even know what school boards have the power to do. So if you think you're winning, that's because you've been lied to by your conservative influencers who are mostly controlled opposition, who are being paid to lull you into a state of security. I can't emphasize this enough, guys. Like, your conservative influencers are telling you the information they need to tell you to keep you under control. They want you to feel, oh, we got this. We don't have to do anything. Why else would conservative influencers be like, we're winning, we're winning, we're winning, when they're not winning? Either they're stupid, either they're ignorant, or it's part of a deliberate strategy to keep you down and under control so that you don't ask questions, because as soon as conservatives feel comfortable with something, they stop actually doing anything because they're lazy for the most part. No offense. So like, oh my God, okay. Dan Bongino told me that we were winning, and Mark Levin, they all told me we were winning, and oh God, that lovely Sean Hannity with his great FBI pin and his CIA pin. Sean Hannity told me we were winning, and my favorite, and Dennis Prager told me that we were winning. We're winning, guys. It's okay. You know, we've got the upper hand here. And then you stop doing anything, and then you stop looking into things, and then you stop looking on your school's website, and then you stop going to school board meetings because you're told, we're winning, guys. It's okay. It's okay. Parents around the country are activated. I don't have to go to the school board meeting because parents around the country are activated. Oh, Jay in with our favorite excuse. Say it with me. Say it with me. Why aren't conservatives doing anything? We have jobs. So no offense, Make Live Bot over on Rumble, but you're not winning. You are losing so badly, and the fact that you don't know you're losing is purposeful. It is the narrative that's being pushed to you by your influencers, and if you don't start listening to what the woke left is actually doing and looking at the primary source documentation, then you don't even know what's going on, bro. Stick around a while. I'll show you. Don't worry. Don't worry, conservatives. I'll do it. I don't mind. I'll do it. Let's keep going.
I mean, there has to be a new ideology just because the old ones cannot deal with the modern world well enough. Imagine forming just a legit straight up fascist country today, or a straight up Stalinist country. That's played out, and you always see changes in how conservative or progressive ideas manifest, where no one could have predicted the Nazi movement in 1900, and they might have predicted there would be a conservative movement, and probably a racist one at that, but not exactly what it was. If whatever ideology comes out of this is poorly designed, it won't be able to garner long term support. But if it's well designed, it'll take over and become the cultural context for centuries. The second point is that we've seen further and further radicalization on the right just in the last decade or so. A large factor is the Leviathan keeps on trying to purge figures that rise to leadership, thus incentivizing even more radical people to rise to leadership since they have no incentive to be moderate. Look at how Trump, Peterson, and Tate have all had legal action done against them and been canceled. The steam valve has to release, and the less inches the left gives, the more insane the reaction's going to be. Also, even incredibly moderate people get called the worst names like Nazis, so radicalism on the right has been boy who calls wolfed by the left. I mean, let's just stop for a second and remember that George W. Bush was called a Nazi.
True.
What will the ideology of this new right look like? I'm not going to talk about Europe here just because that's a whole different can of worms, but I think they will have their own right wing reaction, which I talk about in my video on Europe. It's interesting to see this play out in real time because I've been predicting what the future of the right might be for years. And as a person who's literally on ground zero seeing this develop, it's fascinating to see what predictions play out.
And I can see that Make Live Bot has learned nothing from my rant about all the things they don't know, because now Make Live Bot over on Rumble is saying, Carlin is right, it's too late. The school content is already obsolete. All these woke programs are such our desperation. The boomerang has turned and is coming back full force. All right. I mean, Make Lie Bot, we're all allowed to lie to ourselves. We're all allowed to lie to ourselves. Go to town. Rosalind says, Carlin, can I see your knitting, please? Yes, you can, Rosalind. Hang on. This is what I'm working on. Actually, is that the front? No, this is the front. Hang on. I'm kind of in the middle of a row, so it's a little bit difficult for me to show you. But that's what I've got right now. It's going to turn into something pretty. You'll see. Thank you for asking, Rosalind, and thank you for the super chat.
And the top thing that I've seen is that this new right will use Christianity as its dominant ideology and
yes, they will.
Force.
I agree
as
with
an
that.
insider to the internet right-wing world, it's crazy to see how much more conservative the right has gotten in just the last couple years.
Agree.
As just a joke on my Twitter, I said, at this rate, the right's going to start proposing witch burning soon. And about half of my followers said, hell yeah. If the left didn't want to get burnt,
Yep, I agree with that. Do you know that last year, I seem to get canceled by the right around Pork Fest every year, which is in June. And so I've got another just so you guys know, I've got another cancellation coming up in about a month and a half because Pork Fest is coming, and the right likes to cancel me really good every year when I'm going to Pork Fest. This has happened for 2 years. I've been to Pork Fest 2 years in a row, and 2 years in a row, I have literally been canceled by something that some influencer on the right did on the day that I drove to Pork Fest. So I've got another one coming up. But do you know what they canceled me for last year? I tweeted something. I tweeted, oh, Make Live Bot. We were friends for a while, but now I'm going to mute you. And if you keep up with the bullshit, the same rules of the chat apply over on Rumble that apply on YouTube. Now I'm paying attention. So you're not allowed to insult me, bro. You can't insult me. You can't insult other people in the chat. If you do, you're going to get your ass banned. I just put you in a timeout. I'm happy to make it permanent if you want. Anyway. When I got canceled last year for Pork Fest, I tweeted something to the effect of, next thing you know, conservatives are going to be passing a law against parents showing their children an R-rated movie in their own home. Because here's the thing. I'm willing to bet that every single person in the chat saw at least one R-rated movie before they were 18. Did anyone see an R-rated movie before they were 18? I did. I saw my first one around 6, 7, 8 years old. I was a very big horror movie buff growing up. And so I tweeted, I was like, soon the conservatives are going to pass a law against parents showing children an R-rated movie in their own home. And Matt Walsh decided to retweet it and make this big show of only irresponsible parents show their children R-rated movies before they're 18. Bro. Seriously? This is the hill we're about to die on, conservatives, is regulating whether or not parents can show their own children an R-rated movie in their own home? Come on. Come on. PT, thank you for the super chat. I always loved seeing you, PT, because you have that dog as your image. Everyone, mount the like button. We don't smash the like button on this channel. We mount the like button on the channel, and I appreciate it.
They shouldn't act like Satanists. And that's not a good sign. I'm scared since you're taking young men, the most aggressive demographic in society, and then massively poking their buttons genetically where they were designed to have the most rage, and then not expecting a bad response. At the same time, our society has thrown away a lot of its powerful value structures that it would use as a way of a moderating force against
Acceptable,
really horrible
Elizabeth.
actions.
Acceptable.
You've seen Christianity become a much bigger motivator in the modern right, more so than economics. And I know so many people on the right who have become significantly more religious in the last couple years. And my guess is that this is largely since social justice and COVID are just so chaotic that people are looking to the religion of their ancestors to provide some degree of psychological stability.
That is one
There
hell
are
of a
four
movie,
separate factions
Bootsy.
on the right, which I will break down as the snake, the lobster, the frog, and the cross. With the snake, that's libertarians and business conservatives. And they're a very big faction. However, they don't have a shared unifying ideology
No,
that
they
will make
don't.
their young men willing to fight and die for them very strongly. So they'll just become part of another coalition. With the lobster, that's Jordan Peterson and his centrist Christianity, which is much more palatable for a secular audience. And either you will see a more centrist Christianity develop, or you will see a more far-right Christianity. If it manifests with centrist leadership, it will be under an ideology that was invented by Jordan Peterson, even if he might not be the ultimate.
So I want to ask Element Lead a question. And I kind of identified you as a frog, Element Lead, but like, why do you say that? What do you believe? And why do you say that? I'm not judging. I'm honestly curious. Why do you consider yourself to be a frog? And what does that mean to you? And why is that attractive to you? Let me know. I appreciate it.
Leading figure, or it'll be someone who comes after Jordan Peterson. Then you have the red pill, which is like 4chan and Andrew Tate, and will have a tremendous amount of supporters due to sexually frustrated young men. However, it's too cynical to actually form an ideology around, and so be part of the ruling coalition, but not its leader. Then you have the hard Christian right, which I think has an equal shot of seizing control of the coalition as the Petersonians. And fundamentally, it will be a battle between fundamentalists and the Petersonians for the right. I'm going to make a best and worst case scenario here, both of which I think are plausible. And then through discovering these two separate trajectories, we can try to figure out what the right can do in order to not completely dishonor itself. In most religions in world history, the dominant principle and thing humans can use to bring out goodness against the chaos of the world is conscious thought. Because without conscious thought, we're slave to our emotions and passions, but with it, we can plan around them and then be able to form some kind of order. And the worst position for the right would be it just naturally forming raw chaos without a coherent single ideology and just acting in a vindictive way against
what they're gonna
everyone it feels
do.
wrong against. Because if it has a coherent ideology, it can actually hold itself to a moral standard. I mean, an example of this going wrong is the Nazis. The Nazis had no moral standards for themselves and just behaved in the worst way possible out of a feeling of disgust and revenge. There are two things I find worrying.
Well, not all libertarians are in favor of no government, but I'm certainly in favor of no government. And making all drugs legal is actually going to reduce drug use. It's not going to increase it. So that would actually be a positive thing. So, but yeah, some libertarians are anarchists, some are more minarchists. It depends.
The first is the right's anti-intellectual culture, which makes the rise of a coherent theory of the world the right could use to find moral standards seem not that great. And also, in the previous precedents for conflicts like civil wars, it's normally the most radical faction that wins. And so, from that, you would see a highly ethnocentric, aggressive, religious, fanatical faction. You need to have a balance of faith and reason, where faith pushes your soul and gives you the inspiration in the generally good direction, while reason can balance it and temper it with the real outside world. And I worry that a religious fanatical right would lose all reason, because fanatics often win civil wars because they have the highest amount of in-group loyalty, but also they're just not good at understanding how the world really works. And I worry that if fanatics seize control of America, they might hurt genuine religion through making it look corrupt and
Of course they
decadent.
would.
And you see this with the Ayatollahs in Iran, you see it with Franco in Spain, the Argentinian and Chilean. It's a pretty common pattern in which religious fanatics seize political power, make the religion itself look corrupt, and then end up making the society far more secular. You need to temper faith with rationality, because that's the only way to keep it real and stay reasonable. Faith can nourish your soul, but at the same time, you need to have rational feedback with the rest of the world. America, even if it becomes a Christian-run nation, still has lots of atheists and agnostics, and you need their buy-in into the system. A couple of videos ago, I
Which you
had a
will never
video
get.
comparing the often insane similarities between Rome and America. And if we're looking at that whole comparison, we would be entering the
Wouldn't that have been something to see? Like ancient Rome? Like I mean that's spectacular. That would be like I don't know if that's actually like was a real thing that actually existed or if that's just like a painting. But man, what a sight.
Augustan age pretty soon. And that was when Roman religious conservatives seized control of the society and tried to shove socially conservative legislation, especially aimed at raking the birth rate, down the population's throat. But it was just not effective because the population was so secularized that it couldn't go back. The Swiss psychologist and philosopher Carl Jung talked of the Odin switch, or how in Germanic peoples they're normally very law-abiding and orderly, but when they really get pushed, they can go full psycho and return to barbarism. And you saw this with the Nazis, where the Germans are normally a very orderly people, and then they just went full barbarian. And I worry the same thing with the modern American right, where America is still a heavily culturally and genetically Germanic country. So that instinct is still there. And with the left, they act like a woman who is badgering her husband to make her husband retaliate. And the right does not work in increment like the left. It takes a giant switch. And so I'm worried at a point where the right just goes full barbaric to take revenge against the decades of
That's
humiliations by the
absolutely
left.
going to
In
happen.
fact, the only way the left could possibly win the culture wars is because the right has such a quick jump from being passive to being extremely aggressive, and the left, meanwhile, gradually builds up towards more and more aggression, would be for the
Well, I mean, if nothing changes, the left is going to win the culture war. And I don't think it's even going to be close. The left is going to win the culture war unless we have some sort of miraculous intervention from God. Now, what I do agree with is that I completely agree that with his position that the right is going to lose their shit and go from zero to like overt authoritarian dictator. I mean, they've already been ramping up for like a while. It's been like a slow build, but like there's going to be something that's going to be like boom, and it's going to happen really fast. And they're going to try to take control of everything. And it's going to be completely reactionary to something that the left does. But two things. Number one, most people on the right are lazy. Okay? Like they're lazy. I'm sorry, no offense. If you're not lazy, I'm not talking about you. But many people on the right are lazy. No worries, Silence Lesbian. We're going a little long today, but I appreciate you hanging out and I appreciate your support. So there's that. But number two, the right isn't being proactive in terms of planning a vision and a strategy that's about leading. So the right doesn't lead. The right reacts. They don't know what they're in favor of. They only know what they're against. And so if you are constantly fighting against something, you might be able to get control for a little while, and goddamn, it's going to be miserable for us when they do, especially people like me. I'm not a Christian, not a Jew, don't want to be one. Like, it's gonna be miserable. It's gonna suck really, really bad. But that's gonna happen is the left is gonna come back at them even harder, and the left is far more strategic. They're far more forward thinking. They are far more proactive in how they're visioning their Marxist utopia, and they're going to win. And the right is basically gonna hand it to them by being totally reactionary in the first place.
Left to goad the right into a direct rebellion, thus forcing the army, which normally tilts right, but will follow the government and follow orders to crush the right-wing rebels, thus painting the right as traitors. And we all like to forget this happened on the right, but we have to remember January
Oh,
6th happened.
I don't
And
forget.
January 6th happened before whatever recession and other political problems are going to happen over the next couple years. So if that's the baseline, what could happen next? And I'm worried about some ridiculously retarded actions on the right, like that, or launching rebellions that will make the right seem terrifying and radical to normal American people. Well, the reality is the right just needs to stay still, keep its values, and then the left in the Leviathan will gradually decompose, thus leaving a more moderate right in power. So the right needs to hold on to its feelings. And I would just say, for the love of God, people listening on the right, do not launch a
Well,
rebellion.
no, element lead, you're not listening though, because you bringing the heat is going to lead to your demise. The authoritarian backlash that you guys are talking about and that you guys are advocating for, it will ultimately be your greatest undoing because you're not fighting back strategically. You're just reacting, and you're trying to like overtly force your authoritarian ideals on other people, and it's not going to work. Like, okay, so here's what I don't think people on the right might understand this. The reason that more people support the left than support the right is number one, that only 30% of Americans are actually socially conservative. So you're talking about 70% of Americans do not hold your socially conservative values. And so you guys are talking about using overt power, bringing the heat to force your conservative Christian authoritarian theocracy onto 70% of the people who don't want it. Now, a good number of those 70% might be perfectly fine. Like, they don't like the left. There are a lot of disaffected lefties. There are a lot of people who don't like Joe Biden. They don't support his leadership. They think he's done a really bad job. Fine. The problem is that they dislike you even more. And so by pushing your own brand of authoritarianism, by coming in and trying to take things by force rather than working to win hearts and minds, you are inherently setting yourself up for your own destruction, because you might gain temporary victories, but that's the only victory you're going to gain. It is not going to be a long-term achievement. And in the process, you're going to piss more people off who are going to run right back over to the left, and they're going to say kind of like I did to the right in 2020. When I left the left and I went to the right, I'm like, I'm not a conservative, and I don't agree with a lot of what you guys had to say, but these people are fucking crazy. And so the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Like, I'm not a conservative, but you are enemies of the right or the left, and so right now we're friends. And then what happened? The right substantively changed. And the right, to me, is actually more crazy than the left. Now, the left is more dangerous because they have power. So the left is in a better position to enforce their authoritarianism on all of us. But in terms of just like general worldview and demeanor, I find the right to be significantly more crazy than the left. I want nothing to do with the right. I can kind of, and I say this not supporting the left and railing against the left all the time, but I'm socially liberal. And there are things that I agree with them on. I also don't like the police. I there are a lot of agreements that I can find with more left-leaning people that I can't find with more right-leaning people. So, if I had to choose and say which one was more crazy, it's gonna be the right now. Shauna, what do you mean by socially conservative? I tend to agree America is pretty socially liberal, depending on who you mean. I mean about the gays, I mean about the trans, I mean about the drag queens, I mean about religion, I mean about drugs, I mean about any number of social issues. Like, I'm very socially liberal. I don't care what people do with their body at all.
Also, the left is much better at branding. So if the right does something radical, the left will immediately shame the right for it, and the right will face greater consequences for doing something insane than the left will, because the left is much more smooth at delivery, while the things the right does are more likely to come across as cringe. Conspiracy theories are in some ways the ultimate point of faith over reason, in that you're not following basic logic, but instead you're saying my worldview must be correct, so I'll have all these bizarre inconsistencies to build up a worldview that aligns with what I believe to be true with my faith. And you know your movement is not doing the right thing when you have conspiracy theories, because conspiracy theories allow you to just totally ignore the truth. And once you're ignoring the truth,
Oh
it
god, ain't
cuts
that a truth?
yourself
That's a
off
really good
from
point.
any stabilizing foundation. You're already seeing the
That is a really good point, and the right is so littered with conspiracy theories, it's become almost like a cult-like frenzy on the right with the conspiracy theories, and, like, yeah, okay, every once in a while, a conspiracy theory, like, turns out to be true, but there are some batshit insane conspiracy theories right now that people are really committed to. Like, QAnon is still out there, it's still a thing, and those people are nuts. Amusing, but nuts.
right push conspiracy theories in a really big way, where, just as an example, President Trump and
Oh,
Fox News.
Julia, thank you for the super chat. Great video, interesting perspective to think on. I'll have to catch up later. Dinner time. Thank you. Thank you, Julia, for the super chat. I appreciate it. Guys, we're going to wrap up. I'm not going to do those other two videos today because I've been yammering on for like 3 hours now. But we are going to wrap up after this. Just as a reminder, tomorrow we're doing happy hour at 5 p.m. We're going to be watching a GLISTEN training about LGBTQ plus advocacy and special education. This is going to be a whole new fresh hell for all of us. It's going to be fun. Get some beers. Come join us. Happy hour tomorrow, 5 p.m. Going to be great.
We're pushing the conspiracy theory that the election was faked, which had no evidence. I mean, the right has Congress
Oh,
people like Paul Gosar or Mark.
hang on. Shauna, thank you again for the super chat. You're so generous. What are your thoughts on psych meds? I don't know if you've ever said them. I am not in favor of psychiatric medication as a general rule. Like, so for those who don't, like, I'm a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist. I don't prescribe medication or anything, but I also never would. Hang on, 1, 2, 3. Okay. So here's what I think. I think that psychiatric medication in the short term, if it's like one of those things that's like to help someone get over a slump, or to, I mean, I think that it can be really helpful in terms of like depression, anxiety, stuff like that. In a short term, I am not in favor of like long-term use of psychiatric medication because I think you're just abdicating responsibility. There are much better ways to implement the to mitigate those things, like meditation, working out, diet, things like that. I wish we were teaching people more holistic approaches to basically replace the need for psychiatric meds. I'm not saying there aren't situations in which they're very useful, because they can be. I just generally don't prefer people to be on them for like an extended period of time. I got a really easy solution for you, Vision. If you don't want to bring your kids to Drag Queen Story Hour, don't bring your kids to Drag Queen Story Hour. It's so simple. It really is. I promise you. If you don't bring your kids to Drag Queen Story Hour, it will be just like Drag Queen Story Hour never happened in the first place.
Marjorie Taylor Greene that push legitimate conspiracy theories and said January 6th and the rebellion was good. And
It
on
was
top
good.
of
January
that,
6th
like
didn't go
Marjorie
far
Taylor
enough.
Greene have relationships with literal white supremacists like Nick Fuentes, and the Republican Party's reaction to January 6th or a storming of the Capitol was half-heartedly negative at best. As I talked about earlier, there are very stark comparisons now between America and the fall of the late Roman Republic. And in the cycle of civilizations, us and Rome are in the same place. And what happened in Rome? A right-wing Caesar arrived, thus ending the Republic. And I worry that the same thing might happen to us. And it's no surprise that our democratic institutions have grown much weaker. And Trump, even though he had many good qualities, was a populist strongman who contested the election.
Look at all
I
that
think the
makeup's
chances of
Trump
women's
wearing.
rights being wiped out are decently high. The new right might say things like this: women were most unhappy when they had rights. We gave them everything and they asked for even more. Or the birth rate collapsed so much so that society could no longer function. As said before, young men look for female approval, and so having a dating market this abysmal, combined with every outlet in society hating masculinity, will probably push a vociferous and incredibly angry reaction. Modern feminism doesn't seem to realize how lucky women are for the rights they have now, and basically no other era in history ever had women's rights. And I'm just shocked in some ways looking at it because I'm thinking, it looks as if you're trying.
Here's the part where I'm going to get myself into trouble. This is not something I would ever do if I had kids, but parental rights for you means parental rights for other people, and parents are allowed to fuck up their kids. Parents fuck up their kids all the time. I promise you that conservative religious parents fuck up their kids through repressing them as just as much, if not more, than parents who bring their kids to a drag show with nudity. I promise you that there are a myriad of ways in which that are perfectly legal that parents on the conservative right fuck up their kids, and parents on the on the woke left also fuck up their kids. And so, while this is not a decision that I would make, I also don't think it is my place to tell other people how to parent their children. It is not my place to force my values onto them. And it's not your place either. Worry about your own children. The line is you worry about your own children. That's the line. You worry about your own family and your own children. You stop nosing in to other people's business. And if you guys don't think that the conservative Christians massively fuck up their children, do you know do you know how leftists are created? They're created when conservative Christians repress every aspect of their child's creativity and, quite frankly, makes them feel guilty about going through puberty. And then all of a sudden they hit college and holy shit, it's a whole new world. I can have sex, do all this stuff. Like, conservative parents fuck up their kids all the time. Stop nosing into other people's business. That's where the line is. Steven, gotta head to work. Hope to catch happy hour, but 5 a.m. here is difficult. I totally understand, Steven. Don't worry about it. Want to say I will always support and pay for your Substack. Thankful you are taking a step back from YouTube. Shows your principles. Much love. Well, I wouldn't say I'm taking a step back from YouTube. I'm just trying to be more strategic about how I do YouTube in terms of actually, having it be something that's worth my time. And again, if people want to actually support the school's content and watch the school's content, then they are more than well. Like, I would love that. I would love nothing more. So I appreciate the super chat. See, I try to watch Carlin, and then here she goes attacking Christians. Why? That's Mike Livebot over on Rumble. Because Christian authoritarians, make Livebot, are just as bad as woke leftist authoritarians. That's why. That's why.
Trying to goad men to wipe out your rights by just being as annoying as possible. And I don't think that's the intention, but that's what it looks like sometimes. Feminists must realize that men hold all the cards of actual physical force in society. And historically, the way women have gotten things from men is by seducing them and making the men fall in love with them and then giving them whatever they want. Because whenever women try to compete directly with men, they have to lose. And I don't know why modern
Uh-huh.
feminism doesn't understand that. I don't think the future right is going to be very racist. And if you look at right-wing platforms
Yes, they
today,
will.
they often have lots of people of color. Lots of the very most right-wing people I know.
All right, now ask them how they feel about the Jews. You think they're not going to be racist? Ask them how they feel about the Jews. I'll wait. Emphasize, did we mind our business? Now we're coming for your children. Well, again emphasize, that's why you mind your business and focus on your family and your parental rights. What you're trying to do is enact your will onto other parents, to dictate to other parents how to raise their kids. And because you are trying to force other people to do things that they don't want to do, they are then trying to force you to do things that you don't want to do. This is not difficult, folks. It's really not. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. Substack is a website where I do all of my writing and my important work, and so it's basically like a blogging site, but it's really good. Has lots of features, a great mailing list. It's got a lot of community features. They have their own Twitter platform now. That's not Twitter. It's definitely not a Twitter replacement. They're saying it's not a Twitter replacement, but it's much nicer than Twitter. So you can check out my Substack, carlin.substack.com. I have some other ones too. That's my main one. And you can sign up for emails for free and see what I'm working on and see what I'm doing. I am saying that it is not your job to dictate to other people how to live their lives. Why is this so fucking difficult for conservatives to understand? It is not your job to dictate to people how to live their lives. Focus on your own life. Focus on your own work, your own property, your own children. It is not your job to dictate to other people how to live their lives. The line is when you try to force people to do things with their body that they don't want to do things to censor their words, to prevent them from living their lives. No, she does get it. You guys don't get it because you are trying to force your will onto other people's life. Well, murder is doing things to someone else's body, isn't it, jackass? See, now this is the part where the conservatives get all their fifis in a twist. We're about to see a massive and they're getting all their fifis in a twist, and they're feeling really bad that I'm pointing out that they're overt authoritarians that are trying to control other people while pretending that they are the poor and oppressed. The line is, no, you guys aren't listening. You are the one trying to control other people's lives and other people's bodies and other people's children and how other people show up in the world. You are the ones who are not getting it. And because you are not getting it, you will lose. You will lose badly. It is going to blow up massively in all of your faces because you are not listening. You assholes did this in the late 80s and the early 90s. I am old enough to remember this. Most of you are in like your 20s and you're dicking around on the internet. I lived through the last moral majority. You lost the culture war when you tried to do this to other people. You lost the culture war over this. And you're going to lose again and again and again and again and again and again because you just can't resist the urge to try to control other people and force your will on to other people. This is like truer words have never been spoken. Conservatives are actually more dense and moronic than the far left, I think. They're at least on par. So stupid.
know are ethnic minorities, and most of the most right-wing guys I know are dating Asian or Hispanic women because they're more traditional. However, I do see a great degree of misogyny on the right that is developing, as an entire generation of young men have been vilified by women and are sexually frustrated due to the dating crisis. As Nietzsche once said, battle not with monsters lest ye become a monster, and if you gaze into the abyss gazes also into you. I worry that the right will throw away everything that it used to stand for in order to win this conflict. In these last two recent videos, I've talked about how some of the variables stand out for us to have the rise of Caesarism, or for us to lose the Republic. If we want to look to the Romans, their conservative backlash in the late Republic, which is the best parallel to our current era, was able to stabilize things. However, it was at the expense of their freedoms and everything that made them great. However, the same choice stares us down now. I trust the leaders of whatever movement concentrated among young men are currently watching this video. Listen to my words carefully. You can either succumb to our emotions for no real gain and lose everything we care about. Alternately, no matter how hard it feels, we can think about the things that matter to us and stand for them. Let's not burn our village down to feel its warmth. We might need the houses at some point. What can people on the right do to prevent this horrible reaction and get the best one that I think we can achieve? It's having something that we actively believe in rather than just hating the left. Hatred can only destroy. However, if you have something that you positively believe in, you can build something new. Values like the truth, which keeps you from being completely unmoored from reality. Values like humility, which prevent you from doing something insanely stupid because you're on an ego trip. And the right needs to dig deep to figure out what values it actively does believe in. And we have to protect our freedoms and protect that America has always been a country where people of differing ideas and backgrounds have been able to live and share together ever since our foundation. One of the best case scenarios is some kind of broad thinking New Deal scenario where we have a forward thinking conservative president who's able to build a coalition together of both people on the right and moderates and even some leftists. This would be a leader of Roosevelt or Lincoln's caliber who can bring America through this turbulent period while maintaining the republic and our heritage and values. I think this scenario is plausible because the most
Look at this. Look at this.
Say whatever you want to your kids, but don't mutilate children!
Why don't you focus on your own fucking kids? Do you even have kids? Do you even have children? Or are you just staging a moral outrage right now in my chat? Because this is a moral fucking outrage. What you guys are doing is clown car fucking politics. You probably don't even have kids. And if you do, I'm gonna bet that no one has mutilated them. There are actual problems in this world. This is what you guys don't understand. There are actual real life problems that is leading to the social transition of kids. But because you assholes are engaging in this constant moral outrage crusade where you are trying to be authoritarians and forcing your will onto other people, you are going to create more problems. You are going to lead to more trans children. You are going to lead to more mutilation. You aren't going to save a goddamn thing. You are making the problem worse. You are handing victory over to the left. Oh, yeah, Josh has confirmed in the chat that he has no children of his own. Shocking, shocking. Josh is here, but as a virtue signal. Let's everyone keep that in mind. Every single person, this is universally true. Every single person, they're mutilating children. Don't you care about the mutilating of children? They're mutilating children. Drag queens are all overtly sexual. That's all it is. It's just a sexual show. They're children. Save the children. Only we can save the children. They never have kids of their own. Never. Because it is not about that. It's not about that. It is only about the moral outrage. That is all it's about. It is only about feeling superior. Thank you for giving me the excuse to block you, Element Lead. It is only about the excuse of feeling superior and morally righteous on the fucking internet. If the right really cared about saving children, about transitioning kids, about grooming, do you know what they would do? They would watch the content I've been creating for them for 2 fucking years, but they don't do that because they don't care about actually solving problems. The only thing that they care about is having the moral outrage on the internet. And this is part of why it is so heartbreaking to me that I have been creating this content for 2 fucking years to say, you care about transing kids? You care about it? You care about it? Really? I'm going to show you how they're doing it. I'm going to show you how they're building it into school policy. I'm going to show you how they're doing it in schools. I'm going to show you all their documentation. I'm going to show you how they're training the teachers. I'm going to show you everything that they're doing. And the right's like, nah. But they will scream all day, why are you mutilating children, Carlin? Why do you care? Why don't you care about mutilating children? And they pretend that this is a serious conversation. This is not a serious conversation. It is not a serious outrage. It is a Christian moral majority outrage mob that will accomplish nothing, that will make the problem worse, that will save no one, that will lead to more trans children and more detransitioners, and they are too fucking boneheaded that they can't actually see it. And they ignore and smear everyone who tries to tell them, everyone who tries to explain it, everyone who lays it out for them nicely, kindly. Here's what you're doing, and here's why this is problematic. And they go, but you're in favor of mutilating children. You try, seriously, this is why I'm pissed off, because you try to explain it nicely. You try to say when you try to control other people, they are going to try to control you. And here are all the reasons why you are 19 levels behind where the left is and why you cannot play the game in the same way that they did. And if you actually want to win, here's what you need to do. Here's why you need to go about things. Here's the information you need to know. And you lay it all out for them very nicely. And then you know what they do? They go, you're telling me that you're telling me that I just can't pass a law enforcing a Christian theocracy on other people? Why do you want to mutilate children? Why don't you care about the children? Why don't you care about the children? And it's like, it is completely unhinged from reality at all. Unbelievable. Simply unbelievable. Milo said conservatives will call for all sorts of laws to control others, but not one of them has the balls to solve real problems and call for eliminate all government-run schooling. Milo, king of the chat. King of the chat. We don't have much chat left today, but Milo is the king of the chat for the remainder of it, because that is exactly right. That is exactly right. And do you want to know why? They will never eliminate government-run schooling because they want to control the schools, so that they can implement so that they can bring the Bible back to schools. Guys, do you know what will fix everything? Since we're banning books from schools anyway, since we're already banning books, we might as well replace the books that we're banning with the Bible. Wouldn't that be great? That's why they're doing it. Number 2, everyone needs to laugh tonight. The Blaze is premiering a mockumentary on COVID. No, I'm good. I don't think I'm going to watch that. But thank you, Naruto. Maybe other people will. God. All right, let's finish up.
Radical factions of the right weren't able to win a severe victory in the midterms, thus meaning the Republican Party is now having a crisis of leadership in which effective and good leadership can rise to the top. America's problems are not that fundamental. Long story short, our economy will probably be in very good shape in a couple decades. And as long as we don't lose the things that matter to us right now, we have very good foundations as a country. A problem with modern American conservatives is that they're too reactive, in that they spend all their time trying to stop what the left is currently doing. Well, the left has a very active moral center, that being diversity and inclusion, and that whole woke prism. You know, when you drank way too much and then your friends asked you why you'd said all that retarded shit, or like why you were hitting on a girl that's actually a solid 3, and you think, holy shit, like, I shouldn't have drunk that much. That's the equivalent of what the conservative movement could do, except the stakes are much higher. Let's not have as many drinks, and let's keep responsible friends around us as we're drinking.
Oh, that's it? That's it? We made it to the end? Excellent. Well, I'm glad I got one good shouty rant about how conservatives are all authoritarian dicks who don't actually care about winning in there. I feel like that was necessary for tonight. Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with that guy's premise. That guy was clearly an incel, though, and so I disagree with some of his framing. Like, I don't think that's necessarily hinged into reality. No offense on like the incel stuff. Like, you don't have to be an incel. You can go out with girls and have sex. Like, I mean, but I really don't understand. Like, this is actually mind-boggling to me. The conservative right is handing victory to the woke left on a silver fucking platter. They have everyone who has like ever been involved with the woke left clearly explaining it to them. You guys have like every leftist defector like me trying to clearly articulate to you that you are setting yourselves up to lose. You have every leftist defector saying, here's what you need to do to win, conservatives. Here's what you need to do. I'm going to tell you exactly what you fucking need to do. I will tell you exactly how to get all the Democrat defector votes you want. I'm going to hand it to you a silver platter. And they go, no. The only reason that you're trying to tell us this is you want to mutilate children. And they get in like all this conspiratorial bullshit where they start accusing people as part of a fucking moral outrage mob. We are so fucked because there are not enough serious people on the right who are willing to put their nonsense aside and focus on things that actually matter. Full legal bans are going to be your undoing. Armani is correct. You try to do full legal bans, you will get bent over and fucked in ways that you haven't even begun to imagine by the left. You're already seeing it with abortion. You haven't even begun to see the backlash you're getting to Roe v. Wade. Oh, you thought it was just the midterms? Oh no. Oh no. No, 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 no. They haven't even begun to play on abortion because the midterms taught them that they could raise a record amount of money on this issue, use it to drive every young voter, which means you're never going to win another election again for the rest of your life. And every single time you try to ban something, it is going to be taken and used against you and turned around to stab you in the eye. And you won't listen. You will not listen. And every time someone tries to explain this to you, you go, but you want to mutilate children? Are you telling me you want to mutilate and sexualize children? Like, shut the fuck up, bro. For real. For real. There is not a single, you don't even have to mention transition or drag queens. You don't even have to mention them. And so you're telling us that you want to mutilate kids. Like, are you serious? You guys are bringing it up in every conversation. It is every retort. It is every time that someone tries to explain to you, if you become authoritarian jackasses, then everything will be used against you. But where's the line? You want to hurt children? Are you a pedophile? Do you believe? Like, every fucking time. Do you guys even hear yourselves? Do you understand that every time you are the ones bringing up pedophilia in a conversation, you sound like lunatics? Absolute lunatics. And now Dixie's fifis are getting hurt. You're over the top yourself. Do you hear yourself? You're over. Dixie, I am telling you, I am repeating to you in exactly the same tone of voice what people on your team say to me every fucking day. If you think that I sound over the top, Dixie, it's because I am mirroring you. I am repeating your words back to you. I can give you any number of examples of conservative authoritarians saying every single thing that I've said to you today within the last 24 hours. These are your words. So you're telling me you want to mutilate children? Do you know how many times a day that's said to me? Do you have any idea? When no one has even brought up the topic. Shauna, thank you for voicing my rage at my own side. I mean, this is part of why people watch me. Don't think I don't understand this. I appreciate that, Shauna. So, I guess we'll see what happens. I don't really have anything else to say. But guys, tomorrow, we have a very special presentation tomorrow. We are watching LGBTQ plus advocacy and special education. We are doing that at 5 p.m. tomorrow on the channel. If you want to see what the woke left is doing while you're reeing and complaining and looking for pedophiles under your bed and just, like spying on your neighbor down the street because, that neighbor might be coming over to mutilate your child at any moment. Like, while you guys are reeing and complaining and not listening, we are going to actually watch what the woke left is teaching. So if you want to come and find what the woke left is actually doing, not these monsters that you've created in your head as part of a conspiracy theory moral outrage, but in the real world, you are welcome to join us at 5 p.m. tomorrow for happy hour. Bring some beers. It's going to be great. That's all I got for right now, guys. Take care. Have a good rest of your night.